legislative number 21. And we will start with, oh boy. So we're all over this agenda today, so please bear with me. Give me a second. I broke down in 2 pages.
I think it might be the bottom of page 2, Madam Chair.
That's what I'm doing. There it is. Okay. So we're going to do the reappointments first today, okay? And the first reappointment is for the Baltimore County Animal Hearing Board. Is that correct, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, ma'am. I wasn't really sure how the members wanted to handle this because if they wanted to hear, from each of the appointees or reappointees, or just in case if anyone had any questions.
Are they present?
I believe they are, or they were invited.
Okay, so let's see. Is Jacqueline Scotto with us and online?
Let me see.
Yes, Madam Chair. I believe I saw them as part among the panelists that are on here.
Okay, Ms. Scotto, if you would like to say a few words to the council members, we'd love to hear from you. Just take a moment to introduce yourself, and it's a reappointment, so maybe at the time that you already served on the Animal Commission, and what's been important to you. You have to unmute. You'd have to yes.
I believe Ms. Scotto is the only potential appointee who is not on here as a panelist. Ms. Leppert is on, and the others. My apologies.
Right. So all 3 that are either a reappointment or appointment to the Ethics Commission are on the WebEx, Madam Chair.
Okay, very good. Are we going to vote on these individually, Mr. Bostwick?
I believe the reappointment of Ms. Scotto to the Animal Hearing Board will be a vote. The reappointment of Ms. Leppert, I believe, as chair of the Ethics Commission will be a separate vote. And then the 2 new appointments, Ms. Tancredi and Ms. Ray, will be together.
Okay, so 3 votes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So can we start with the reappointment of Jacqueline Scotto?
I think Ms. Scotto is not on the WebEx.
Okay.
So we might want to, defer that until Tuesday, next Tuesday, for the vote.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Bostwick.
But I think Ms. Leppert is on the WebEx.
Okay, very good. Well, good evening. Oh, I see you, Cindy. There you are. How are you this evening?
I think she's muted.
You have to unmute yourself. That's all right. We all do it too.
How is that? Can you hear me now?
Yes. How are you this evening?
Good. I'm good. Thank you. And how are you, Madam Chair?
Very good.
Very good. So, and hello, and thank you to the council and everybody else who was on, and thank you for inviting me. I was told that you just wanted to hear a little bit of background, but is there anything particular that you would also like to hear from me?
Well, this is a reappointment, right? So you've already served on the Ethics Commission?
I've served on the Ethics Commission since March of 19, but this will be the beginning of being chair.
Oh, congratulations on that. Congratulations on that. Well, yeah, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you even were interested in serving on the Ethics Commission?
Okay, thank you.
What's important to you?
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney actually for 38 years now. Time, I guess, flies. Been a member of Maryland Bar since 1982. I practice business law and business litigation. I am a partner at a firm downtown called Neuberger Quinn. I grew up in Woodlawn, went to Woodlawn High School. So I spent the first 17 years of my life in Baltimore County. Then I went to Hopkins and then UCLA Law School. Came back, lived in Baltimore City and practiced in the city. And came back to Baltimore County and have lived in Timonium now for the last 17, 18 years. So you see, I'm sort of like the beginning and the end so far of my life have been in Baltimore County. My husband and I now live off of Delaney Valley Road. I really wanted very much to do something with the county, and I really wanted to serve on the Ethics Commission. And this is because I've had a very strong interest in this kind of thing for a long time as a lawyer. Years ago, I started serving on what was then called the inquiry panel and then the peer review committee. That is the group that looks at ethics issues for lawyers. I did that for, I don't know how long, it was a very long time. It was at least 15 years and it might have been 20 or so. But more recently, I have served on the State Bar, the Maryland State Bar Association's Ethics Committee. It does something sort of similar to what is done on the Ethics Commission, in that opinions are written by lawyers who want to do the right thing, but aren't exactly sure what that is. And so they ask for an opinion. That's one of the things that the Ethics Commission gets, these requests for advisory opinions from people who want to do the right thing. And through the Ethics Committee with the State Bar, I've participated in, in speaking on panels and such regarding ethics issues. So this has really been an interest for me. I'm excited about the opportunity, if I'm so lucky to be, I guess, confirmed, if that's the correct word, by you all, to be chair. I think that the things that I bring to it are that I have really had an interest and passion, as I said, about ethics kinds of issues. I have my legal background, and I also have a lot of leadership experience. I have served as, in the past, as president of the Women's Bar Association for the state of Maryland, as well as the president of the, it's a combined Baltimore City, Baltimore County chapter of the Women's Bar Association. I was also president of the Bar Association of Baltimore City, as I would say, with men and everything. That came after the Women's Bar Association. And I was also president of the Baltimore Bar Foundation. And if we want to stick this in for good measure, my homeowners association, my husband and I live in Wakefield, which is kind of by Pine Ridge Golf Course out Delaney Valley Road. So those are the things I think I bring. What I have really cared about, I think, on the Ethics Commission has been primarily, I think, to me, the theme is how important it is for the citizens, for the people, to feel confident in the public servants at all levels. The people who are on TV and the people they vote for, the people they read about in the paper, and those people who are standing behind the counter who they sometimes need to stamp and approve something, everybody. And when that is what each individual Baltimore County citizen needs, and it's really what we all need, because if people have faith in it, it makes the whole system work well. And so that is kind of at bottom what I think of as what you all have entrusted the commission with, is to kind of look out for and trust the confidence that the public has placed, and to help all these people who want to do the right thing figure out how to do that right thing.
Accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you. That gives us a wonderful sense of who you are, where you came from. You have a very impressive resume, and we would be lucky to have you, I'm sure. So yes, the vote will be on Tuesday, and thank you for being here this evening to share with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Am I to be excused now? Is that
Yep.
the way it works?
Madam Chair,
Listen to the entire council meeting. You can hang on if you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
You can leave at any time you want, and none of us will know when you leave. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair.
Yes. You have a question?
Izzy, not a question, but I just wanted to say a few things on Ms. Leppert's behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So Ms. Leppert is an outstanding attorney. She is a splendid person. She's engaging. very knowledgeable. And she's also a fellow Woodlawn grad. And so I couldn't think of a finer person to chair the Ethics Commission than Cindy Leppert.
Well, just remember, Councilman Catch is going to have plenty to say since she's on Delaney Valley Road now. Right, Councilman Catch? Wade? I don't know where Wade is. Is Wade even with us? Is Wade Catch with us?
Yes, he is. Yes,
Oh,
he
okay.
is. Yeah, and I noticed that she lives in the fantastic 3rd district, which is the finest councilmanic district in Baltimore County, and chose not to live in the 2nd district, which Councilman Patoka is trying his best to turn it around, but you know, it's quite a challenge. But all seriousness, you live in Wakefield, right? Which is a wonderful community.
I do, yes.
Heard a lot
Yes.
about, heard a lot from you all during the CZMP process. And
Yes, and actually, I would like to thank you, Councilman, for you've been posting updates on different topics to our next Wakefield site. And I wanted to thank you for that. It's been much appreciated in the neighborhood.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And best of luck. I'm sure you'll do. I was a school teacher, and one of the things that school teachers do, we do things before we ask if we can do them. That's but I guess you know that about school teachers.
Yes. Yeah.
Makes
So-
life easier.
Okay.
Do any of the members,
Yes.
do any of the other members have any comments or questions for Ms. Leppert? Okay, then, we're going to move on. Thank you again.
Right. Thank you, and thank you for all that all of you do for Baltimore County. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
luck,
Thank
Cindy.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I believe we have the appointments of Lisa, you want to, let me see, Laura Ray and who is that, Mr. Boswick? Tim,
Tancredi, I believe, Madam Chair.
Hey. You said they are here with us this evening?
Yes, I see Lisa Tancredi is on, and I believe Miss Ray as well.
Okay, who would like to go first and just introduce themselves?
I guess whoever unmutes themselves first.
There we go.
Ms. Tancredi?
Morning or good afternoon, Madam Chairperson, and thank you to all of you for inviting me and for considering me for this position. It's quite an honor. Unfortunately, I have the situation of being after Ms. Leppert, who is outstanding in every way. She is a very tough act to follow, but I will do my best. So I have lived in Baltimore County for 26 years. The first half of that, I lived in Stoneleigh, and then I moved to Pikesville about 10 years ago. I have 2 children. They both attended public schools in Baltimore County. I have been practicing law for 25 years, first at Miles and Stockbridge. I made partner at Venable, and then I moved to Gephardt and Smith, where I am today. I am a bankruptcy lawyer, which is in the law world somewhat like being an undertaker. You are not welcome in many conversations amongst business people. I was the president of the Bankruptcy Bar Association, and I have been active in many other bar associations, both national and local. The reason that I am interested in this particular commission is I think I have become more aware of this over the last 3 or 4 years, is that one of the essential attributes of a good government is integrity. And so it is just essential that the public have trust in their government and the people who work for it. If you don't have that, then the people lose faith in the government. It isn't as effective and worse. So I was interested at this point in my career. My children have now both gone to college and they're out of the house, and I'd like to contribute to the community in a way that's important to me, and that is why I am here tonight.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening and telling us a little bit about yourself. And we all know that these volunteer positions, you're taking time away from your family and the things that you love to do and your job. So we appreciate all the time that you would be willing to give to Baltimore County. So thank you for wanting to be on the commission. We appreciate it.
Thank you for all that you do.
Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Councilman Batoka.
So thank you, Ms. Tancredi. And do you currently reside in Pikesville?
I do. I live on
Oh.
Wood Valley Drive.
Oh, great. That's a great neighborhood off of Stevenson. So Councilman Catch, I just wanted to let you know that Ms. Tancredi is a fine resident of the beautiful 2nd District of Baltimore County.
I'm sure she's a fine resident. Of course, my district is the most beautiful district. But so anyhow, Ms.
Well, you need to
Tancredi,
drive on. You need to take a ride down Wood Valley Drive.
you need to go to northern Baltimore County, all over northern Baltimore County. But
Okay.
seriously,
All right.
seriously, thank you very much for being willing to serve on the Ethics Committee. And you live in an area that's almost as nice as ours. So good.
Anyone
Thanks, Ms.
else?
Tancredi.
Serious question or comment? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to hopefully confirming you on Tuesday.
Thank you. Thank you for considering me. May I be
Yeah.
excused, please?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Have a
Ms.
good night,
Tancredi.
everyone.
You too. Okay, and next we have Laura Ray. Laura, can you unmute yourself and
Hello,
Touch your-
everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Laura. I live in Southeast Baltimore County. I was a teacher for 7 years in Baltimore County. I've lived here all my life. So my master's and my bachelor's are in education. And I've taught here in the Southeast area at Sparrows Point, Patapsco. And when I had my second child, I became a stay-at-home mom. So I've been doing that for the last 10 years. I have 3 children. They attend Baltimore County schools. So that's been my main focus the last 10 years. I also do real estate part-time. So I've done 58 deals in the last 6 years, and I've also flipped 11 houses kind of on the side. As a additional way of bringing income into my family. And I'm also very involved in our recreation council. I'm big on children and big on, making sure they're engaged and have healthy activities to be involved in. So that's kind of where my focus has been. And the reason that I'm kind of interested in this position with the Code of Ethics is I've just really been impressed with this administration. I feel like there's a big push for transparency, for accountability, for engaging the public. And I just really appreciate that as a private citizen. And, I'm of the mindset, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So, if I can be here to serve and, play a part in that, I would love to. My ethical code kind of comes from, biblical code. I think it's important to have accountability. It's important, integrity, honor, all those things really need to be in our public government. Make sure, our citizens can trust and, be secure in what's happening. So kind of where I'm coming from.
Very nice, very nice. Does any of the members have any comments or questions for Ms. Ray?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I ask you what subject you taught at Sparrows Point?
Mathematics.
Oh, excellent. I was a math teacher in Baltimore County also.
Oh,
So,
great. Math teachers are
very
the best. Yeah.
Well, I'm a Dundalk alumni, 77.
Well, that's my area, Dundalk Stairs Point, and that's like where I do all the real estate and the flipping we have done in the Dundalk areas.
I lived there for 48 years before moving to the 6th district, so I certainly love and appreciate the area.
So do I, guess.
Mhm. Any other questions from anyone?
Madam Chair,
Councilman,
I have to chime in, given all the gloating going on by Councilman Patoka, Councilman
give something to the,
Patch. Ms. Ray, thank you for your kind words about the 7th district and the beautiful North Point Peninsula and the town of Dundalk. High quality folks down here, as I think most of you can attest to. So thank you for your service to both the community you live in and the community down here in the 7th district.
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else? Alrighty, Ms. Ray, we look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday and being a part of your confirmation.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, Miss Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can leave anytime you want. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to page 43. We have 3 contracts we're going to look at, and Dr. Branch could not be with us this evening. We have Lawrence Richardson with us this evening.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council.
Yeah, how are you? Good?
I'm well. The first 2, our contracts that we have up are for our housing initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore County Department of Health is currently requesting to approve 3 contracts with Mosaic Community Services, People Encouraging People, and Prologue to provide housing initiative services. These services started on July 1st and would run through June 30th of 2022 with the option to renew, for 2021 with the option to renew for 4 additional 1-year terms. The Prologue contract will provide 24/7 on-site supervision in a residential rehabilitation program at an intensive level of support for 3 individuals that are discharged directly from a state hospital. They will also provide and coordinate any needed transition services for the 3 patients to be discharged. In addition to providing intensive services, they will manage medical and psychiatric needs, including peer support services. Any changes to the approval of these services need to be approved by the Mental Hygiene Administration and the Baltimore County Bureau of Behavioral Health. The second contract is with Mosaic Community Services, and this is to serve 11 individuals at any given time in a combination of current residents of Mosaic and new customers to be transitioned to the community from a state psychiatric hospital. The existing Mosaic residents will be served through this project and transition into lower levels of care. These services are reserved exclusively for individuals transitioning directly from the state psychiatric hospitals. And this is also administered through the Mental Hygiene Administration and Baltimore County Bureau of Behavioral Health. And the third contract is with People Encouraging People, and it will provide life-transforming rehabilitation and support services to people in Baltimore County who are disabled and disadvantaged. They will maintain an approval as a mobile treatment services program. They will meet established fidelity standards and serve community treatment teams, and they will provide service to individuals with complex mental health and other secondary diagnoses who are currently in the state psychiatric hospital and coordinate and manage all medical and psychiatric needs for 30 individuals who are discharged from state hospitals.
Thank you very much. These sound all like very important programs. Do any of the members have any comments or questions?
Madam Chair. Madam Chair. Yes.
Yes.
Just a little note here. You may recall Prologue, which is based in Towson, and about 3 years ago we had an issue with their headquarters here in Towson, and I just wanted to commend them. They have operated without any complaints. I have used them often when there are homeless individuals in my community. They and the police department have gone out and tried to find solutions for these individuals. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, the good work they are doing in our community.
Thank you. Any other members have any questions or comments regarding any of these contracts? Okay, we're going to move on to page 55. And Lawrence, you're also going to take contract number 12, Recovery Housing Services.
Yes. So the Baltimore County Department of Health, Bureau of Behavioral Health is seeking qualified vendors to provide recovery housing services for Baltimore County residents. The intent of recovery housing is to ensure that individuals seeking recovery are able to access a safe, healthy recovery environment to initiate and sustain recovery. The target population is adults age 18 and above who are in recovery from a substance use disorder or opioid use disorder or a co-occurring disorder. Special attention will be given to programs that accept women and children and programs with specific programs for emerging adults ages 18 through 26 years of age. Individuals can be funded for up to 90 days with extensions being granted on a case-by-case basis. Each case will be evaluated monthly by peer specialists assigned to the individual, with final approval being given by the program manager for recovery support services or designee. The award of housing does not guarantee a minimum number of referrals, so the programs must accept and adequately support individuals enrolled in the medical assistant treatment, and applicants must have and submit a written policy for individuals currently enrolled in medical assistant treatment to determine the level of capabilities to provide support to the individuals choosing the medical assistant treatment as part of their path to recovery. Peer support specialists working for Baltimore County will be the referral source for this program, and ongoing contact with designated peer specialists is required to continue funding. The Bureau of Behavioral Health will serve as the gatekeeper for individual admissions into the program's recovery housing and will determine if an individual is appropriate for recovery housing.
So I have a question. So are these really more for opioid recovery or any kind of recovery from any drug? Is it specific or?
It's not specific, but they have a focus for opioid disorders. But
Now,
for all substance abuse disorders.
And you said for mother and children. So if you have a mother that has an addiction problem and she goes into a recovery house for treatment, is she allowed to have her children with her?
Yes, and some of these programs will allow them. Yes.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. Is that something new?
No, we've had contracts with several different recovery houses since 2014 and beyond.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's really nice that you're keeping families together like that during through the process. Do any of the members have any questions or comments? Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to move up to, you can turn to page 26. Still under contracts, we have Deborah Schindel from Property Management.
Good evening, Madam Chair and council members.
Good evening.
How are you all?
We're good. I'm good anyway.
That's right. That's all, Catherine. The administration is requesting an approval of a contract for de-lipping and refurbishing of ball diamonds. And this is a contract that primarily is used to address any safety issues on the ball diamond fields. The scope involved in some of the work that can be done is hauling off of dirt or adding dirt onto the field. It's cutting the diamond out and layout and regrading the infield. And also sometimes we need to water the sod. So all of that type of scope is incumbent upon what we do under this contract. It was a competitive bid. We put it out and there were two awardees, will be Rupert and Classic Landscaping. Both of them will be used as long as they can handle the workload. We're going to split it amongst the two of them. One of the questions that was asked of us is to explain why we have a separate contract for ball diamonds, de-lipping, instead of continuing to use our natural turf contract that we have currently. So as we started using this contract, the natural turf contract that was established a few years ago, purchasing and property management kind of worked together to utilize that contract and discovered that with our delipping, it really is a specialized type of contract. And so we kept having to add line after line because there was just a real need to be very specific on our needs of scope of work. And so together we decided that since it was so specialized that we would put this out in particular because our goal each year is to have, if the funding stays available, approximately 40 sites done a year. For those who do not know, we have approximately 396 ball diamonds all over the county. And we have completed so far in the last 4 years, 128. And this fall, we're planning to do many more. This is an ongoing process with delipping. It is a maintenance process. What has happened over the past over the 20 years, I should really say, is that everyone was really good about adding ball diamond mix, but they forgot to do a 5 to 7 year maintenance on delipping. And if you do not go in and regrade where the infield and outfield meet, you create a safety issue. It creates a lip and the ball hits people. So that's what this really does target. And this is a really much needed contract, which I hope many of you have seen the difference. And we've actually been a much more playable surface during weather conditions.
I used to get quite a few complaints down at Eastern Regional with that issue.
Yeah.
All teams, and yeah, so thank you for being responsive to that. Appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. Izzy.
Yes.
Ms. Schendel, who is the steward of the ball fields? Is it the rec council? Is it the school? Or is it property management?
Okay, it depends on what site. But we have, so we work very closely, property management works very closely with recreation parks. So we handle the maintenance of all of the ball diamonds in any of the parks. And we only do the ball diamonds on the elementary schools. And then Rec and Parks works very closely with the Board of Education for the mowing of elementary schools on the ball diamonds, and their middle school diamonds and high school diamonds are all handled by the public school. So I know it's a little convoluted and I apologize, I didn't create it, but so we kind of work together as a team. And so if someone does report, say you report an issue on a high school field, you think it's me, I work very closely with Rec and Chris Bassetti over in public schools and say, hey, I got this concern. This is who you need to talk to. Here's their complaint. But that's, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, so it sounds like 90-foot diamonds are public or schools, because for elementary schools, I don't think, I've seen 90-foot diamonds on middle schools, but not like Sudbrook Middle School, but not on any of the elementary schools. So I guess it's safe to.
Yeah, but we do have some in the parks. So we do have some in the community, but we don't have many that we maintain. It's usually, you're right, a high school.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes. Councilman Marks?
Thank you. I want to piggyback on what our chair, Councilwoman Evans, mentioned. Tim Bonner from the Perry Hill Recreation Council approached both of us several years ago. I think there's been a lot of improvements under your leadership, and I appreciate you always getting back to me on the many questions I have. But please continue to make this a priority. Very important for our Recreation Council.
Absolutely.
Thank you, David. Thank you for mentioning Tim. He stays
Sure.
very active in letting us know what's needed for the kids.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilman Randall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Ms. Schendel, how are you?
I'm good, sir.
Good, good. I just wanted to follow. There's another question on the that the auditors had supplied, and I think you remember a couple weeks ago I sent a joint email out to you and to Tony Bazemore, who is the council's liaison to Baltimore County Schools. And Councilman Patoka, you're right. It can be a little confusing to the public as to who's responsible for what. It took me a while in my first year on the council to wrap my brain around that. But I did, I sent an email with some concerns about some properties, both middle school, high school, and elementary schools. And it appears that they're being addressed. And I want to thank Ms. Schindel and Tony for that work. I would like to report that in my driving around the district, for the most part, our fields are in pretty good shape. I heard some concerns from constituents that due to COVID and the fields not being as heavily used, and with rec councils not using them, that there's the potential for these fields to fall into disarray. And my concern there, of course, was if things get so out of hand, then something that is a minor ongoing maintenance issue or activity becomes a lot more expensive and a lot bigger project to clean up. So the better we maintain during this unfortunate time that we're in, the better for all of us. And so Ms. Schindel, if you could sort of address the second question from the auditors as far as current field conditions and maintenance of those fields during the COVID-19.
Absolutely. So, and it's a really good question, and I really appreciate you all asking, because I have to tell you, I personally take very large pride in our ball diamonds because they are very viable in our community. So what we have been doing with COVID was we had actually worked with Rec Council, and we had cut back our maintenance on all ball diamonds to be done for grooming, deep tining and grooming. And we monitored them, and that was particularly in spring to kind of see, is that going to hold us over until we get back and playing on these fields. Since then, I would say probably it was the mid-May, we noticed some grass was growing in. And so we increased it to every other week so that we could continue to make sure that that no grass was growing in and that we didn't have a problem in having to recut them out, because you're absolutely right, it is more expensive. So we have increased it to every other week, and we continue to monitor them. If it's an area where, and I know this sounds crazy, but sometimes there's parts of the county that grows faster than other parts, we will increase it to be done weekly. And then we have continued our delipping program, which I really do believe is very important, and that this fall we are going to continue. I do believe we have 38 sites that are going to start this month after this contract starts, so that we can delip them and that they're going to be ready for spring. Our whole goal was to make sure that at the drop of a hat, we were ready when Rec said, hey, we want to play next week, we were ready to do so.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, just real quick, Ms. Schindel, a little unrelated. The trolley trail that goes from Catonsville to Ellicott City, your group handles that, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, recently with all the rain, we had a little bit of erosion where a couple of the big rocks and big boulders started to fall into the stream close by. And I noticed property management came out and they put some stakes in the ground, and then they put these like orange fence lines, just so like a little kid doesn't like unintentionally lose his way and get hurt. Which I appreciate that. For the future, if possible, if we could put like maybe a wooden fence or something that looks a little like right now it looks pretty bad. I mean, it looks, and maybe it's a temporary solution. But hopefully longer term, we can get maybe like a wooden fence or something that will look a lot better and blend in a lot better, in the future. So I just wanted to pass that on as on my holiday list for the year.
Okay, let me address that for you. You're absolutely right. It is a temporary solution. As soon as it came to my attention, I asked them to go out immediately and put up an orange safety fence because I didn't want anybody to get hurt. We are meeting with EPS and DPW out there this week, and we are going to come up with a permanent solution together, and then we will then come up with if we need to put a permanent fence. But there's some work that has to be done in that area for safety and because it's encroaching into the walkway. And so together we're going to make a plan on how we can address it, and then we'll make sure that we do. But our first and foremost was make sure nobody fell down that. So I promise you we'll do it.
No, and I greatly appreciate that because, you know, sometimes we have kids on their skateboards or on their bikes and maybe not paying attention, and they could easily just go right off without, you know, unfortunately, it is a little dangerous. And so I do appreciate what you guys have done on that. And I do want to give you guys a nice shout out because on that trolley trailer, there's always a tree coming down or always something, always. And so your group really jumps right on it. And, you know, we're calling things in all the time. And I've been nothing but pleased by the response with your property group. So I do want to say thank you very much for a job well done. And please pass our thanks to all the people in the trenches making it happen because they do great work. And I, for one, definitely recognize it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will share those wonderful comments because you're right. It's not me, it's really them. They do a great job.
Thank you, Councilman Quirk. Anyone else have any comments or questions for Ms. Schindel? Okay, that'll be all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to page 22. And we have Acting Director Tom Kiefer with us from Public Works.
There we go. Get all tuned up. So we have a contract entitled Retracing and New Roadway Line Striping Services. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with Mid-Atlantic Marking to provide on-call line striping services for county roadways. And the contract would commence upon county approval and continue through December 31st of 2023. With the option to extend for an additional 120 days. The total compensation over the entire life of the contract, which is estimated at approximately 3 years and 8 months, including the extension period, would be $180,000. This is a contract that the State Highway Administration bid out earlier this year that was awarded in March. And we're piggybacking that contract, and that's why the time frame here is what it is and ending on December 31st of 2023. It was competitively bid, and they selected the lowest bidder. And what this will provide is the opportunity to provide backup for the county's painting equipment in case it's out for maintenance, and also for doing what they call pre-striping, which is on resurfaced roads. So that's the.
Thank you for explaining that, because I didn't know if this was a new vendor and we weren't using the county anymore, but you're saying they'll be working together and this will be picking up what the county can't get to?
Correct. So if we either have more work than we can do because we're doing so much resurfacing.
That would be awesome.
Or if we have equipment failure, less awesome.
Okay. All righty. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Mr. Kiefer about this contract? Okay. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good night.
Certainly welcome. Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to go to page 19. And I'm delighted to have Colonel Layback with us this evening. Hi, Colonel Layback. Are you there? There. No, that's Izzy.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Members of the council, good afternoon. The Baltimore County Police Department is requesting approval for a contract with Fair and Impartial Policing, LLC, to conduct implicit bias awareness training. The total contract is for $224,600. Of that, $183,400 has been budgeted through speed camera program for FY21, and the additional $41,200 will come out of FY20 speed camera special fund. The reason for the training and the scope is to help personnel identify and understand biases as it relates to interactions with the public, subordinates, and supervisors. The training will allow patrol officers, supervisors, and executive staff to understand, manage, and recognize bias to reduce and prevent potential incident-based reactions, which have potential to generate negative public reaction during the performance of assigned duties. The reason why we're bringing an outside instructor in is to bring legitimacy to the training. Fair and impartial policing has been around since 2005, and they've trained tens of thousands of law enforcement officers. It is a sole source. There was only 2 companies that were capable of handling an agency our size, and they have since merged together to create fair and impartial policing. Police officer conducting this training understand this topic can be sensitive to law enforcement. It tends to be received a little defensively because of the connotation and suggestion that it brings forward. So that would be one of the reasons why it is an advantage of having active or retired law enforcement officers doing the training. So that would be the presentation. We'd like to start this training October of this year.
Very good. I like it. Are there any questions or comments for the Colonel about this training?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman.
I just want to thank Colonel Lavac for being proactive on this issue with, with everything we've been discussing as a council that's being discussed nationally. I appreciate the Baltimore County Police Department being proactive in trying to address some of the concerns that we all have been bringing forward and discussing with you and others in leadership positions at the police department.
For sure. Thank you, Councilman Batuka. I'm sure we all feel that way. Anyone else? All right, Colonel. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Okay, may I be excused?
Yeah, you are excused.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next we're going to page 3. We have 3 contracts, one on page 30, 34, and 38. And we have Rob O'Connor from the director from OIT.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. How is everyone this evening?
Good evening. I'm good.
No IT issues this evening, so I'm not being blamed for anything yet. So that's been great.
I'm up and running.
Very good. The first is a request from the administration and the Office of Information Technology on 2 contracts to provide design, installation, and maintenance of security and video surveillance systems located within Baltimore County facilities. This was performed through a RFP. It was a competitive bid on selection by best qualified, best value, and experience. The contractor shall provide time and material labor and incidentals necessary to design, install, and maintain physical security and video surveillance systems located within approximately 150 locations. The initial term of each agreement is 1 year with the option to renew for 4 additional 1-year periods. Funds will be encumbered by delivery orders as needed and shall not exceed the sum of the County Council approved appropriation during the entire term, including renewals thereof. All work performed through these agreements will be requested and overseen by the Office of Information Technology.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the first contract? Okay, Rob, if you'd like to move on to the second one on page 34.
Okay. The next request from the Administration Office of Information Technology is a 902F request for Stanley Convergent Security Systems. Stanley Convergent Systems installed all the security equipment during the expansion project for a Department of Corrections, also installing additional equipment as well as upgrading existing equipment during the past 14 years. The console equipment provided by Stanley is proprietary configuration to properly function within all multiple components to ensure a secure system, including intercom systems, video surveillance systems, and locking mechanisms within the Department of Corrections. If Stanley Solutions did not continue to provide the maintenance and repairs for the detention center, The existing panel control system securities would have to be completely removed, replaced, and reinstalled through a new vendor without the ability to interoperate with the multiple complex systems already installed within the Department of Corrections.
Anybody have
There's also a one-year contract with 4 one-year renewals, ma'am.
1 year? Okay. Are there any questions or comments on the contract? Okay, next one, page 38.
The next request is from the administration and the Office of Information Technology. It is a 902F request also for Sherwell's Performance Management Platform. The Sherwell Management Platform is my page there. Sorry, is a suite of asset management applications. This management system is also containing a self-service facing portal. Wow, I'm having trouble speaking this evening. It manages all IT assets and ticketing systems. The Sherwell platform is currently utilized by all departments and offices within the county for IT tickets, ranging from a variety of issues from network outages in our 911 center to things that we are probably most familiar with, password resets. The selection was made, Sherwell, from 5 solutions that were selected in an RFI process 4 years ago. And Sherwell continues to be best of breed in the industry. OIT is requesting a 1-year contract with 4 one-year renewals as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the members on the last contract? No?
IT is boring.
IT?
Very good.
No, it's not.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, good night. Thank you, Bob.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it. Stay safe. Okay, next we're going to move to page 1 for Bill 74-20, and we have Tim Sheridan here, our court administrator of the circuit court.
Hello, am I muted? Yep.
Yep. Hi, Tim.
Hello, how are you doing? Thank you, Madam
Good.
Chair and members of the council. Yeah, we have a very straightforward supplemental appropriation request. I'm not sure which bill. I've got 2 of them.
7420, can we do 7420 first?
I don't have my number on top of it.
Security COVID grant?
The COVID grant, okay. So, yeah, that is to purchase the plastic barrier shields that we had to buy immediately to get the court up and running very quickly. So the administrative office of the courts put out a solicitation. We applied, got the roughly $5,979 from them. The money has already been spent, and the plastic shields are in place as a percentage. It was only a small percentage of what the county further came in and did behind that to get the court up and running quickly. And if Deb Schindel is still on, I would also like to thank her and her staff for an excellent job that they did here getting us ready. Because the court really never shut down. We went quiet for a while, but we've been doing bail reviews, and we've had people in and out for various different emergencies since it started. And these barriers were necessary to get us through that first hurdle. So what I'm asking the county council for is approval to sanction the money that we've already spent for and get this grant from the Administrative Office of Courts.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Mr. Sheridan? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to Bill 75-20. And that's page 4, and that is the security grant.
Right. So the security grant is an annual event that happens every year from a solicitation from the Administrative Office of Courts. It involves various different security aspects, and the courts can select. We have a security committee. We met. One of the things that was suggested that would improve the court security is to have a ballistic barrier, a ballistic film placed on the front windows of the lobby. So if a projectile were to go through the window down there, it wouldn't shatter. And it provides a second benefit, which is also of security nature, of providing tinting, because early in the morning, the sun is directly in the deputy's eyes as you go through the security check in the main lobby. So this grant supplemental appropriation request is for a grant for $20,540 to $451, I believe it is. And We'll probably put that out to bid when we get it. There's no hurry on this one. This money has not been spent. And we're seeking the county council's approval so that we can put the project out there.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members? Any comments? Mr. Sheridan? All righty, Mr. Sheridan, thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, we're going to move down to page 59, and we have Amy Grassi from Real Estate Compliance for contract to sale. Ms. Grassi, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm just checking to make sure a big spider didn't get you.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. The hazards of working from home. I'll tell you, that thing was a monster.
It looked like
I wasn't getting too close. I was sitting here on my porch watching this meeting, and I looked over, and there's a nasty old spider in a big web. Anyway, what we have is a contract of sale to purchase perpetual easements of just over 3/4 of an acre from the Maryland Aviation Administration for the replacement project at the Stansbury Manor Sewer Pumping Station on Wilson Point Road, right next to the Middle River Volunteer Fire Company. This is an 80-year-old pumping station that needs to be completely replaced, and we have been going back and forth with the Aviation Administration for some time. It's between COVID and just two large bureaucracies. It has taken a minute, but we are finally here, and it's gone through the state process and been approved. The appraised amount is $22,400, and I believe DPW has already begun some of the preliminary work so that they would be ready to go when this last matter was finally wrapped up.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions, and it's in my district. I understand what's going on. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Ms. Grassi? Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Grassi. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Stay with my big spider.
I'm running now.
Okay, next we're going to go on to page 15. We have an amendment to a contract. Mr. Ed Blades, our Director of Office Budget and Finance.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of council. The administration is requesting an amendment to the contract with Benefit Strategies LLC to continue to administer the county's employee health care, dependent care, parking, and transit flexible spending accounts. The flexible spending accounts allow employees from the general government, BCPL, BCPS, CCBC, and the Revenue Authority to set aside pre-tax dollars to pay for those types of expenses. Pre-tax contributions are capped based on the type of expenditure. Dependent care is capped at $5,000 annually, healthcare at $2,750 annually, and transit and parking is capped at $270 monthly each. The current contract was competitively bid. The amendment adds 2 one-year renewal periods to the contract to the current 5-year and 3-month term. The estimated cost of the renewals is $135,494, and this will sync the ending of this contract with our other healthcare contracts to allow us to coordinate the rebidding process, and service continuity with the other agreements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blades. Any comments or questions? No? Okay, thanks, Mr. Blades. Next, we will go to page 73. And we have with us this evening Active Director of Department of Economic and Workforce Development, Mr. Chris McCollum.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Councilman. Thank you for having me. The administration and the Department of Economic and Workforce Development is requesting approval of grants totaling $2,740,921 to cultural and artistic nonprofit organizations Consistent with the FY 2021 budget, there are 33 general fund operating grants of $2.243 million, 13 tourism program grants of $258,380, Maryland State Arts Council grants for the Splash Summer Arts Program and various projects of $204,741, and various project grants not eligible for state grant funding of $34,500. Project grants are each less than $9,500 awarded only by Baltimore County organizations.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. McCollum? No? So Mr. McCollum, this actually means that we're getting, putting more money towards our Baltimore County programs?
It does indeed. We've increased funding to the Baltimore County-based cultural and arts nonprofits by about $66,000 over last year.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Anyone?
welcome.
No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. McCollum. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next, we have on page 10, Ms. Stacy Rogers, our County Administrator Officer. Good evening, Ms. Rogers.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the council. Good to see everyone. The administration is requesting the approval of a no-cost contract with Labor First LLC, a retiree advocacy and benefit administrator organization that specializes in Medicare programs and products and offers specialized customer service to seniors, helping them to navigate the complexities of the Medicare healthcare landscape, something that I know firsthand, having spent 6 years at the Social Security Administration. This effort was initiated by the prior administration as a pilot several years ago. We currently have over 700 retirees receiving prescription and supplemental plans supported by Labor First personalized customer service. Feedback from our retirees regarding their customer experience has been very positive. Our request is to initiate a 5-year no-cost contract with 5 additional 1-year periods to expand this effort across all components of county government at no cost to the county. Labor First is compensated directly from the insurance providers. A number of jurisdictions in Maryland have partnered with Labor First and are receiving excellent customer service for their retirees, competitive rates on insurance products, and realizing significant savings on their retiree healthcare costs. The signature piece of Labor First support is their specialized consultation for retirees. Labor First benefit advocates will be available to members to assist in tailoring packages that are in the best interest for the retirees, and then support them throughout on an ongoing basis. As reflected in the documentation provided to the council auditor, through the Labor First partnership, our retirees will realize significant savings on out-of-pocket expenses, such as co-pays and deductibles. They will continue to have a range of choices and will be able to take advantage of new benefits and savings. A few examples of those benefits are reducing the annual deductible requirement from $2,000 down to $500, significantly increasing the number of prescription drugs with zero co-payments, moving from about 22,000 prescriptions to over 162,000 prescriptions, and placing co-pay caps on specialty medications, resulting in significant savings to retirees who use these medications. Fiscal implications. From a fiscal perspective, moving forward with the expansion of the Labor First partnership will help us significantly reduce our retiree health care expenses, enable us to stabilize our OPEB funding, and improve our effort to reach pay goal costs down for our retirees and the county. based on our actuarial projections, by transitioning to Labor First prescription and Medicare Advantage self-insured plans, we will achieve our goal of 100% pay go by the year 2026 and 50% of our total liability funded by fiscal year 2050. Looking at our countywide estimate accounting impact, we could also see a potential reduction in the total OPEB liability, go from $4 billion to $1.99 billion, a potential of 53% decrease. The county executive made a commitment in addressing the OPEB challenge when we assumed office. Over the past year, through our work with Labor First, we see a viable way forward to doing this. That path includes focusing on the needs of our retirees, providing choice, competitive price prescriptions and medical plans, coupled with personalized customer service. Provide opportunity to address the long-term sustainability of our retirement benefit program, and ultimately, it will enable us to reduce our overall liability, OPEB liability. Continued partnership with Labor First is a positive step in the right direction, and that's why we are pursuing this contract. Mr. Blades and I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. First and foremost, I would like to say that I appreciate the time that the administration spent with me last week explaining all this to me. And of course, someone being, and myself and my spouse being in their 60s, you know, I have to start really paying attention to what we offer to retirees very closely. I was very impressed by the savings. And I appreciate the county looking out for the retirees. It just seemed like a win-win. I kept thinking, I got to be missing something. I have to be missing something because it was just such a generous program. And I feel like it's really going to have a huge cost savings to seniors. So thank you for negotiating, being part of those negotiations. And I'm sure the members have questions or comments for you. Who would like to go first?
Madam Chair, before the questions, I just want to say I also looked at this very, very personally, being very close to 65 myself, looking at this from the standpoint of a senior's lens and what we really think about with respect to cost. And while it seems like, oh, it's just too good to be true, one of the reasons why we would be able to get a competitive price is because of the collective leveraging and the fact that we would move to from indemnity type products to self-insured products, which makes a big difference. The other piece is with the Medicare Advantage program, it is the case that the federal government provides far more subsidies to the insurance industry for these programs and many entities. I've seen these programs when I was at the federal level, and many entities, government entities, are moving toward the Medicare Advantage programs because of the savings being offset by the federal government. I thought I would add that as well.
Okay, thank you. Who has a question or a comment for Ms. Rogers?
Madam Chair.
Certainly. Who was that? I'm sorry.
I think it sounded like
Yeah, I think Councilman Catch. Yeah, I'll go after Councilman Catch.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. I just have a question about the chart on page 14. Will you explain, take 2024.
I'm going to ask Mr. Blades, this is the projections that have come from our actuaries that we're talking about. I'm going to ask Mr. Blades to talk about how this is projected.
Sure. Councilman Catch, actually, can we jump up to 2021, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Let's follow that across. That's 35 million. That was our appropriation for this fiscal year. You see
Right.
above that 2020 was 35 million also.
Yes.
We left it level for 2021 given our financial condition at the time. So moving on to, if you look at 2022, now the first column says current plan schedule. That means if we don't do anything, we leave everything as is. That means next year we would have to increase our appropriation from 35 million to 55.7 million. Just to put that into context, we would have to increase our OPEB contribution to 20.7 million. When you consider the SAC guidelines for this year, SAC guidelines was 84 million. That means 25, just using that 84 million as an example, that means 25% of our SAC available growth would be consumed by OPEB, the funding increase for OPEB. Now, if you go to the middle column represents if we were to just do prescriptions, and that would be prescriptions only without the Medicare Advantage. So that would be going from 35 million this year to 51.5 million next year. And then finally, the last column is all in what we're trying to do, and that is prescription plans plus Medicare Advantage. That means next year's increase would be 12 million for a total budgeted amount next year of 47 million. So that's what this is showing you.
And you project by, what is it, 2020?
So what you see there for 2026, our goal for 2026 is to be at the 100% PAYGO contribution. So in each of those scenarios, if you follow those numbers across, that's what we would have to get there to reach that goal for our 100% PAYGO. You can see there's a significant savings there.
There really is. Now, what about the retirees? Are they, is it projected that 100% of them will be in the Labor First medical and prescription program?
It's a graduated, it's a, 1 second. It doesn't that will all be in at one time. It's based on 50% participation and then moving up to 75%, and then by 2023, having everybody migrate over. But what we unique about this first is being able to do the personalized consultations with retirees so that they can cost compare. Because literally the offerings right now, the Medicare Advantage plan that will come on for this year, it's so much less expensive because of what I described about the subsidies coming from the federal government are moving to a self-insured plan. And then on top of that, the out-of-pocket reductions for them, they will, I just want to say it this way. When you see the economic advantage as a consumer yourself, you would make that move. We're not requiring the Medicare Advantage plan be mandatory this year. We only are transitioning to mandatory, the prescription to mandatory, but we believe we'll still have a significant move forward by retirees once they cost compare the current Cigna plan, which is the indemnity plan, compared to the Medicare Advantage self-insured. When you look at those other things they get, there's so many more advantages, especially that drop from $2,000 outlay for the maximum out of pocket down to $500. That in itself, the movement of all of the prescriptions that will be eligible for zero copay out of pocket. There's so many things. I mean, I put my lens as a senior on with this and say, okay, what decision would I make if I looked at the indemnity plan that will be offered for anybody who would want to stay, and then the Medicare Advantage plan, it's really, from a cost perspective as a senior, when we're looking to save where we can, it's no comparison.
Do we insure husband and wife?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. And okay. So do you expect that we will mandate participation in medical and prescription plan eventually?
Well, like we just did 2 years of the pilot prescription, and we saw the uptake. Like we said, we have 700 individuals right now who elected to go over voluntarily. I think with the extra motion and outreach we're proposing, we will see what happens in the next 2 years. We project that people will naturally migrate over, but in many jurisdictions, they do eventually migrate to mandatory.
Okay. Okay. But you're going to need to reach these people individually, some of them to.
All of them will be outreach too. That's their signature piece. Labor First has a staff of consumer advocates that outreach to every single retiree, talk to them about their specific needs, their prescriptions. And this is a signature piece that people talk about. This doesn't necessarily happen with the other programs. Labor First will also stay with that senior, not just enrolled, but they will continue to have constant customer availability for seniors. That's the part of me that is the win-win advantage to this.
And Labor First is simply reimbursed or is paid by the various insurance companies. Is that what you say?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And they are I'm sure they're audited every year. I mean, we're joining a company that is solvent.
Yes. And we have their references. There are 7 jurisdictions in Maryland where the school systems or other portions, McDaniel College, Somerset County, Queen Anne County government, as well as Queen Anne County school system, Kent County Public Schools, Dorchester, Caroline. And then we have, we've reached out to Virginia and Pennsylvania and checked out their references. But we've been working with them for 2 years.
What's the origin of this company?
So it's a private entity.
Okay. Okay, thank
and
you.
And they specialize in Medicare. Medicare is very complex and confusing. That was probably the largest percentage of complaints and issues when I was at the federal level that we had to mitigate, because it's complex and there are a lot of loopholes in it. So having advocates be able to talk to seniors specifically about Medicare Part D, the prescription plan, because if you don't do that timely, then you have a lifetime surcharge penalty. And we don't want any of our employees to have that issue.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Rogers?
I think Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah, Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, obviously this is a pretty big deal, obviously for the county, and I know when we're looking at OPEB funding and looking at the numbers involved, I think we're trying to get to full OPEB funding in 30 years. I think your numbers assume about 50% by that time frame. Is that right?
Well, actually, the goal is to reach PAYGO, 100% of PAYGO by 2026, and then 50% of the total liability to be funded by 2050.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, I think the actuarial projections itself assume that this is all going to happen within 2 years. And so what happens if it takes a lot longer than that, or maybe people don't really opt in as much? What would happen then?
Well, I look at it this way. We have to aggressively look at products with better prices. I feel confident that we'd have a good uptake, Councilmember Quirk, because if you compare the products side by side, all of the offerings, and this is something that Labor First does on a personal basis, there's no reason why anyone wouldn't move forward. Looking at the cost and looking at the increase in the benefits. There's some other benefits that I did not list, but are things that seniors have concerns about. Well, one is there's a post-hospital meal delivery, a fitness, silver fitness, health fitness benefit that's not a part of any of our programs that we offer now. Clinical care follow-up program. And like I said, the biggest one is that moving from $2,000 out of pocket maximum down to $500. That's a $1,500 savings in general to individuals. When you look at all of these things compared to the Medicare indemnity plan that's offered right now, which we do have people enrolled in, this plan is just a better product. And the reason why it's less expensive is because, as we said, we're moving from an indemnity model to a self-insured model, and we're leveraging through Labor First volume, because you can't, we could not procure individually these competitive prices. But I would be challenged to see why individuals would not migrate over.
And Councilman Quirk, I'd just like to add, with any actuary estimate, it is based on their best data available. And the further you go out in time, the more difficult it is to accurately project. And we could, yes, have less enrollment, but we could also go the other way and get full enrollment sooner and have even better results than what we're seeing here.
And so when we're looking at the actual impact to, say, our retirees on Medicare, we're basically going to be giving them the flat benefit, so to speak, and then they're going to go out and kind of shop it around. Is that right?
That benefit is compared to the products that are there. They see what the benefit will pay and what their cost would be. Of course, if they choose to stay in the indemnity plan, that plan is more expensive, so the flat rate would not go as far. Whereas if you look at the flat rate and the indemnity the self-insured plan compared to what we have right now, there's a major savings for them. The flat rate covers their cost, but we still have to give them choice if they were to, quote unquote, choose to stay in the indemnity program, which, like I said, just a comparison of the product itself, let alone the flat rate, it's a better product.
And so for say the average retiree in Baltimore County, Medicare benefit versus cost, we're giving them a flat dollar benefit. From a cost perspective, for the average retiree looking out into the future, how are we seeing that, 5, 10, 15 years down the line? Does a lot of it also assume that how much participation Labor First has as well?
A portion of it is, but the other thing is we committed, the county executive committed to looking at the rate, the subsidy rate every 3 years to factor in inflation. And looking at that from a competitive standpoint, In these programs, the Medicare Advantage programs, your best option is to leverage the best price. And that's what the Labor First team can do. They can leverage that best price because none of the entities of county government can go and negotiate the prices that we're able to get because it was competitively negotiated through an RFP process.
And so you'd be looking at the inflation rate for overall healthcare versus the inflation rate generally. I mean, given
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely. And we talked to them about, we talked to the CE, about having to do that because the prior administration had presented this as a flat fixed rate for life in perpetuity. Right. And we said that wasn't realistic.
And what do you guys see happening to the current plan that we have right now for retirees? What do you see happening with that?
The current plans will be offered, like I said, the indemnity plan that Cigna has now and exists, it will be offered to give choice, but the customer service advocates will speak with the retirees to see, like, for example, what prescriptions are you taking? What are your needs? And comparing the two products, because another benefit that I didn't want to put too much in, but when you compare the Cigna current prescription plan, for example, some of the products that are like maintenance drugs, if you just look at the two products right now, under copay for certain medications, like maintenance medications, diabetic medications and supplies, there's a whole broader range of supplies, asthma, blood pressure, blood thinners, cholesterol, osteoporosis medications are added to the new product. So it's the competitiveness, if you will, of the side-by-side comparison, just like when we shop as active employees and we're looking at these offerings each year, we're looking for who's offering the most that meets our personal needs. And one other point, Council Member Quirk, is this offering was based on our employees. Labor First used the demographic profiles of all entities, the school system, community college, and general government, and base these offerings on the kinds of prescriptions and the needs that our employees, what their experiences were. They did that analysis up front and then put out the requests for bids.
And has the administration talked to different retiree groups or different retirees on this? Have we put out a lot of input, and if so, what have we heard back from the retirees? That all of us eventually could be affected, but the existing retirees, have we talked to the existing retirees and got input and feedback as well?
We had to work with our union partners, including the school system, since we don't negotiate with the school system. They right now are, there's a timing thing in terms of their overall, how their retirees are connected to their union contract. But as we speak, they are working to amend the contract. This is the feedback that we've got. We've worked diligently for the last 6 months trying to give everybody the information, letting everybody know from not just the fiscal standpoint on this, Councilmember Quirk, but the quality of products. I'm just amazed that the county has not competitively pursued more competitive products for the county. The second piece is the community college is aligning with us as well. That's why we've included this effort to go government-wide. So we received, feedback. People had the same questions about the flat subsidy. Some people were concerned about it, but we've showed them where no current retiree would be negatively impacted because the cost of the product, the current product that we're going to offer, is less than the indemnity plan that we offer right now. And then our 700 employee retirees rather, who are in the voluntarily in the prescription plan, we got customer service feedback from them independent of Labor First. Labor First gave us national customer service data, but we did a survey of our own 700 employees, and the data, Madam Chair, I think we sent that little summary to you as well. The data was very positive, very high, in the high 80s and 90s for various aspects of their customer experience. We did reach out to the existing retirees who voluntarily came into the program.
And because my biggest concern is, like, I don't want my phones all of a sudden to, 400 calls from retirees being like, what in the world is going on? And I have a slight concern that maybe a lot of retirees may not have any idea, and then when they find out after the fact, all of a sudden I'm worried that a lot of council members are going to hear about it. Change is difficult, and so I just want to make sure we've done a good enough job so retirees feel like they know what's going on and they don't feel unintentionally blindsided. I mean, with COVID and with everything else going on, it's really easy for people out there to miss this important thing, and so that's just something I wanted to put out there.
Well, Mr. Council member, let me say this on that. There's a whole communication strategy, which is the next step to this between now and open enrollment, that Labor First and Cigna, again, they've transitioned other entities during enrollment period. It's a step-by-step, almost weekly communication aspect of this work. But we had to get through this part before we could do that, because we needed to take the appropriate step to engage Labor First as our official partner, because the prior administration initiated this effort as a pilot. In order for us to go full speed ahead, we needed to come to you. But there is a full communication, customer service piece associated with this effort that entails outreach to each and every retiree. We're happy to brief you all on that aspect as well. Labor First has been more than willing to do briefings.
Yeah, no, I respect that. I know this administration prides itself on transparency, but I would say my impression is that most retirees in the county have no idea we're considering this. I just want to go public record and say that, because I just don't get the impression from anybody except for us core insiders. We know what's happening for sure, but I know many retirees in the system that don't have any idea that we're considering this huge change. So I just wanted to just send that feedback just for the record.
Okay. So noted.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from Ms. Rogers? No? Okay, thank you, Ms. Rogers. Thank you for taking the time to explain that to us. And if any other members have any questions that they think of later, I'm sure you can call Ms. Rogers personally.
Absolutely. I welcome any call or any other communication or input and information that you need. We're happy to do this. We definitely see it as an win-win, but Councilmember Quirk's concern is duly noted, but we do have a communication plan to tell folks, but we wanted to take the right steps first.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, next we're going to move on to page 66. We have amendment to a contract, and we have County Attorney James Benjamin with us.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council.
Good evening.
The administration is requesting an amendment to a contract with Whiteford, Taylor, and Preston LLP to continue to provide legal counsel for the county with respect to various litigation matters involving the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, or RLUIPA. The proposed amendment increases the maximum compensation by 1.8 million from a 1.5 million to 3.3 million for the entire 7-year and 3-month term of the contract, including renewal and extension periods. The contractor, Whiteford, Taylor, Preston, may also be reimbursed for additional eligible expenses. This contract commenced on January 1st, 2019. There are currently 3 RLUIPA cases still pending in the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland against Baltimore County. It's anticipated that legal fees and expenses could increase by up to an additional 1.8 million. And as a result, the amendment would increase the not to exceed sum under the contract to $3.3 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. Any members have any questions or comments?
I do, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Marks.
Thank you. I want to thank the county attorney for arranging the briefing earlier on this issue. It seems like we have a gun to our head, unfortunately, as a result of legislation that was passed in Washington, I guess, nearly 20 years ago. Bipartisan legislation, by the way. So I think both parties are to blame. It's frustrating we have to go down this road. This is an extraordinary amount of money. It really is when, you know, we cry poverty on so many other issues, when we can't afford to do things for our constituents, to have to be spending it on legal fees is really frustrating. But on the other hand, as I said at the beginning, we have a gun to our head, and I don't know the other option. I just wanted to say that for record. Thank you for the briefings you provided to us, and hopefully we can get a resolution to this soon.
Councilman Marks, thank you for your comments. I totally understand your concern. Because of the complex nature and time-intensive nature of this case, and the volume, the nature of services involved, is why we're coming with this this request for amendment. But we're working hard to see to defend these cases and to see how we may be able to reach a consensus. I know that there are a couple of settlement conferences coming up in these matters, so we're going to work hard to see what we can do to try to resolve these matters, because we understand that you're, with regard to the understand you're concerned about the dollars involved, sir.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman.
Thank you. Yeah, I concur with Councilman Marks, and I expressed this in the briefing that Mr. Benjamin was kind enough to organize for us. And it just seems to me that the old tactic for our opposition in these cases, who, by the way, is the same attorney for all 3. This is the old tactic of bury them in paper and drive up our costs, because if we win, we're gonna recoup our fees, which is an unfortunate part of that federal legislation that Mr. Marks had mentioned. And I share his frustration with the amount of dollars and the fact that we're amending a contract that we had all hoped that would be over by now. Because of the circumstances of the cases, it's not. So I don't think I'm the only member to feel frustrated by this. And I'll just say, as I've said before, that our zoning regulations exist for everyone, and they exist for reasons. They exist for public safety reasons and for aesthetic reasons. And the council is the sole sort of arbiter of land use in Baltimore County, and we don't arbitrarily ask PAI to deploy those regulations and enforce those regulations in an unfair way, and for our county to be characterized as using our regulations to discriminate against a religion or a particular church. I'm sorry, but I take offense to that, because I think that the county, by and large, does a good job in employing consistency throughout the decisions that our judges make and the decisions that PAI makes. So I'll leave it at that before I ramble on even further, but just wanted to express my frustration with this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Any other members?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Jones.
I guess wanted to echo the comments from Councilman Marks and Councilman Crandall. And the only thing I would add is for any citizen watching, just know that although we certainly don't want to spend this money, but it is necessary for us to be able to have some rules and regulations which will affect the quality of life of all the people here in Baltimore County. So although we feel like we're being shook down, so to speak, it is necessary that we defend ourselves in court. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else? Mr. Benjamin, I just want to thank you personally for all the time that you have spent speaking to the council members about this issue throughout the last year and how important it is. And I appreciate your time on it. Really do.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you and everybody in the law office. Okay, if no one else has any, if nobody else has any questions or comments, we'll move on to the next item, which is, hold on one second, where was that? 14, page 77, and that would be resolution 90-20. Who's going to take that? Stacy?
I think Mr. Benjamin would probably be the logical person to take that as well, Madam Chair.
There you go. I'm glad you didn't leave us.
And that's the approval of the continuation of the state of emergency resolution.
That's James.
Uh-oh, did I let him go?
I'm on mute. I apologize.
Oh, okay, there you go. All right.
Thank you again. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. Resolution 90-20 seeks approval of the continuation of the level of emergency that was initially declared by the county executive on March 13th, 2020. On March 13th, 2020, the county executive declared that a state of emergency existed in Baltimore County due to COVID-19. On March 16th, 2020, the county council authorized a continuation of the state of emergency with the approval of resolution 37-20. On April 14th, 2020, the county council authorized continuation of the state of emergency for an additional 40 days with the approval of resolution 47-20. On May 21st, 2020, the county council authorized continuation of the state of emergency for an additional 45 days with the approval of resolution 52-20. On July 6th, 2020, the county council authorized continuation of the state of emergency for an additional 30 days with the approval of resolution 71-20. August 3rd, 2020, the county council authorized continuation of the state of emergency for an additional 35 days with the approval of resolution 78-20. This continuation is set to expire on September 12th, 2020. It's likely that the state of emergency will continue beyond September 12th, 2020. And for that reason, the request is being made to state of emergency declared by the county executive be continued for an additional 25 days from September 12th, 2020. That will end October 7th, 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments by the members? I have a question. Mr. Benjamin. I just heard, I didn't read it myself, but someone sent me a text saying that Governor Hogan has now went to stage 3 opening for the state of Maryland. I don't know, have you heard
That's
that yet?
I've heard that as well, that of my news feed.
Right. So does that have anything to do with us still receiving federal money from the CARES package or wherever it may come from? Can we be in stage 3 and still be accepting that money?
I believe the answer to that is yes, because even with it going to stage 3, it's my understanding that the state of emergency has not been lifted yet.
Okay. All right. So that has to be lifted. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from anybody? All right. Thank you, Mr. Ben. Appreciate it. Okay. Our next piece of business for this evening is page 7, Bill 76-20, Councilman Catch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bill 7620 expands what is allowed by right in the ML zone. Right now, there are offices that are allowed, medical facilities, etc. What this would do would expand it to allow for a hospital setting and for people with eating disorders or anxiety disorders, etc. Sometimes individuals with those kind of problems need to be able to stay in a hospital environment for a few days. This facility is proposed to be in the Hunt Valley Industrial Park. There's a building there that's going to be remodeled, and this is a state-regulated facility. I believe they're going through the CON process right now. So I ask that the council pass this bill to allow for a facility like this in ML zones.
Okay, thank you. Speaker Son, can we hear from any of the members have any questions or comments for Councilman Catch? Okay, we'll proceed to the speakers. Ms. Belcastro, do you have that under control on your end?
Yes, I'm going to call our first speaker.
Okay.
So our first speaker is Harry Brandt. Mr. Brandt,
Yes, I'm here.
you may begin your testimony.
Okay. Is there a way I can have video or not?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm Harry Brand. I'm a psychiatrist. I am actually head of psychiatry at University of Maryland St. Joseph Medical Center. And in a dual role, I serve as the medical director of the Eastern Region for Eating Recovery Center. My whole career has been focused on treating eating disorders. I was formerly the head of the eating disorder unit at the National Institute of Health. In January of 2020, the group that I've been leading for the last 30 years joined forces with Eating Recovery Center, which is the largest provider of eating disorder services in the United States, to set up ERC Maryland. And we aim to make Baltimore County a hub for eating disorder treatment for the entire Eastern region. And one of the ways that we hope to do this is by developing this facility in Hunt Valley, Maryland, which will provide a new stepped care level for residential treatment. We hope to have 54 residential beds in this facility that will provide a level of care that has not previously been in Maryland. And we're in the process of getting licensed for that facility. We've identified an excellent site. but the facility would need to house patients round the clock as opposed to only during the day. So there's that. We're so far since January, we've furthered our continuum of care for eating disorders. We're currently located in Physician Pavilion North 1 at GBMC in a 23,000 square foot facility that we've outgrown. We've, for many years, been the largest regional provider in Maryland of eating disorder services. Just a word about eating disorders. They are very serious illnesses. I'm sure many of you know people who have suffered from eating disorders or their families. They have the highest mortality of any psychiatric illness and wreak havoc on individuals and families. So I would advocate for this new facility. I think it's going to be very, very positive for Baltimore County. We will employ many mental health professionals and a whole range of people in this program. I think the location on the I-83 corridor will encourage patients from Pennsylvania and surrounding regions.
Thank you so much for your thank you so much for your testimony this evening.
Thank you.
And, we really appreciate it, and thanks for the work that you're doing with people with this eating disorders. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other speakers, Ms. Belcastro?
Yes, Madam Chair. We did have a Ms. Reeves who is also from Eating Recovery apparently, but she does not seem to be on the meeting. I'm not sure if she had to jump off, so I'm going to move on to the last speaker, and that would be Chris Mudd. Mr. Mudd?
Hello, everybody hear me?
Yes,
yeah.
we can.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Christopher Mudd with Venable, here on behalf of Eating Recovery Center. Just echoing Dr. Brandt's testimony, so we think this is an important use for Baltimore County. And actually, when they first came to us about this particular location in the ML zone, we've worked with the zoning office to try and determine an existing use category that it might fit within, and determine that it did not. And I think that actually may be the case in many zones throughout the county. So we approached Councilman Catch, and obviously this is an important public service, and so he was willing to introduce the bill, and we asked that everybody else support it. And I do want to point out that this is, while this particular location is in Hunt Valley, the bill proposes to amend the ML zone at large. It's actually MLIM zone at large. So there would be opportunity for similar uses for positive, to continue to address eating disorders throughout the county. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Mudd. Okay. Any further conversation on this bill? Okay, we're good. All right, we're going to move on to page 8 and Councilman Marks, Bill 77-20. And I also know that you have speakers when the members are done with any of their comments.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This legislation allows for the advancement of age-restricted senior condominiums near the intersection of Bel Air Road and Honeyville Boulevard in Perry Hall. By way of history, this corner was zoned commercially by my predecessor in 2000, 20 years ago. There was an additional zoning change in 2008, 12 years ago. Baltimore County approved a shopping center here before I was elected to the county council. Since my election, I've worked with the Forge Reserve community and the developer, Southern Land Company, to minimize disruptions to the surrounding neighborhood from this development. As an example, Lidl Supermarket wanted to build here. I worked to locate Lidl to another site at the Silver Spring Shopping Center, which eliminated a major generator of traffic. I also opposed the proposed planned unit development that would have brought apartments to this site. The current development under construction includes a Wawa, a car wash, an oil change facility, and a restaurant. The developer has the right to build a number of commercial uses, including a fitness center or an office building. These are particularly intense uses. Knowing this, when the developer floated the idea of senior housing, I thought it was a use that should be considered. You all know the statistics. About 25% of Baltimore County's population is now senior citizens. There are more seniors than school-aged children in Baltimore County. I met with the Ford Reserve community in June. It is now September. I've held 3 meetings over the past week alone about this project. I appreciate the input of all my constituents, but need to remind everyone of some unpleasant truths. First, and I think every one of my colleagues recognizes this, you've all dealt with this. We often need to respond to zoning decisions made by our predecessors, in this case, 20 years ago. There are 4 public parks along Honeyhill Boulevard. This corner is privately owned. It will be developed. I am trying to find a use that will reduce one impact, traffic, while now working to eliminate what the Ford Reserve community views as the negative effects of multi-story condominiums. Second, different neighborhood associations have different expectations for this site. I met with another community association last night, which would prefer senior housing here, but of a smaller scale. In short, this effort is a work in progress. I continue to communicate with all of the community associations and with the developer, and I'm working to balance many different expectations for a challenging site. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any questions or comments for Councilman Councilman Marks? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Belcastro, we have speakers for 76-20.
Yes, Madam Chair.
77-20, I'm sorry.
Yes, Madam Chair. Our first speaker is Rich Maddox. Mr. Maddox, are you there?
I sure am.
You may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Council folks, for giving us this opportunity to speak on this issue, which affects our community. I'm the president of Gunview Farm HOA. Our board is a group of 50 single-family homes located in Perry Hall who oppose this bill 7720. That would rezone Honeygo overlay, as you just heard, for residential development, which would potentially add multiple units with multiple levels and multiple high-rise buildings. Some background from our community. We are located directly across the street from Honeygo overlay, located on the corner of Bel Air Road and Honeygo. When it was first introduced several years ago, our county councilman attended our community meeting and reviewed the plans that this site would be strictly zoned as commercial and support about 4 businesses, including a Shake and Steak and a Wawa. If you're familiar with this area, it's hard to argue that it's not anything but ideal for commercial business. It's a terrific location on Bel Air Road for commercial business. So we were naturally supportive of the original plan and pleased that our elected official was proactive in his communication with us. However, sometime after August 3rd of this year, we found out on social media that a new bill was introduced, the 7720, that could potentially rezone this prime commercial property into mixed use, commercial and residential development. Of course, age restricted, but going up to a possibility of 4 stories above ground, but not to exceed 70 feet. At this point, there does not appear to be any language that addresses restrictions of numbers of buildings, units, parking, street, or traffic pattern changes, etc. So I guess to conclude, we think the Honeygo overlay property is prime commercial real estate and should remain just that, commercial real estate, focused on providing smart products and services to our community instead of adding additional residential buildings, which in a very congested area, which we feel strongly that residential development has been properly managed to this point through the conversion of many multi-acre homes into a number of residential built, individual and multi-tenant homes. We also feel our community's done a very good job with managing the senior living through Brightview buildings, Oakcrest, and then some a proposal you'll hear later tonight on Gerst Farms. So in short, therefore, on behalf of our community, we urge you to withdraw Bill 7720 and not rezone Honey Go overlay to allow any residential development at that location. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, just a question for the speaker that was just speaking is, sir, do you live in an adjacent community or association?
Correct.
Is he still there? How far away is your community from this development?
So to put it in perspective, 3 times a week, I get I'm over 55, first of all, and I get my walk in, and I walk beyond the location that we're talking about. So it is literally at the end of the entrance. We're across the street from this development. Why do you ask?
No, I was just curious if you were in a community association that was directly affected by it.
We feel we are, yes. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Maddox?
Yes.
Would you agree that I've been a pretty responsive councilman over the past 10 years?
Agreed.
And I've worked with you on a lot of issues, the resurfacing of Schroeder Avenue and downzoning. And I appreciate our friendship and our relationship. I don't mean to be antagonistic here, but the reason I didn't come, I just want to say that the reason I didn't come to you is because my understanding is your development, which was built, I guess, in the 1990s. Am I right?
Correct.
Is not right there at the corner. I do think you're affected, but I also think that having another commercial use there would generate the traffic that a lot of people don't want. So that's why I did not approach you. I will continue to work with you. I like you. I value your friendship. And we'll continue to work on this project, but that is why I did not come to you.
And I value yours as well. And I do look to your comments saying that this is a fluid subject. And I really hope it goes in a direction that is more consistent with the original plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have another speaker?
Yes, Madam Chair. Our next speaker is Jason Johnson. And while I'm finding Mr. Johnson on our attendee list, I just want to remind our speakers for today, you are limited to 3 minutes. I do have a timer. However, you probably will not hear the beep. So either the chair or myself will interrupt you, let you know that your time is over.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
You may begin your testimony.
Hello, my name is Jason Johnson. Thank you for allowing me time to speak against Bill 7720. I'm a resident of Perry Hall and live in the Forge Reserve community across from the proposed condos. I'd like to speak about some zoning issues in regards to the condos. Lot 6 is currently zoned BL. This permits certain business uses by right and some by special exception, none of which are multifamily dwellings. The developer is allowed by zoning code to build residential on a BL zone lot, but only up to the density allowed by an adjoining residential lot. The undeveloped residential lot adjoining them is zoned DR 3.5. To build a multifamily dwelling requires a DR of 10.5 or 16. This means they currently cannot build any multifamily dwellings within the current zoning code unless Bill 7720 is voted in. If the lot was correctly zoned at DR 10.5 or 16, they'd also require a residential transition area. The spot zoning of this property allows Southern Land to build condos. It also is allowing them to build to a height not allowed for under BL zoning or DR 10.5 and DR 16 building heights. Bill 7720 is also allowing for commercial setbacks that have a negative impact to homes situated on Forge Road. This impact is greater than residentially zoned setbacks. The commercial zoning setbacks allow the developer to reduce the space between base structures closer to property lines, allowing them to have a greater building footprint. The developer has not provided us with an updated site plan to show us exactly where all 3 buildings will be placed and how it will impact us as homeowners, or if it even includes any open space as multifamily dwellings require. If the condos are not an option, Southern Land has also stated they can build a 100,000 square foot building or something such as a pawn shop, since they currently have BL zoning. Both of these scenarios are unlikely within the Baltimore County Building Code. I believe the nature of the zoning change is bypassing the normal community input process and the administrative processes of the Baltimore County government. If this proposed development is good for Perry Hall and Baltimore County as a whole, it should go through proper rezoning, either by the CZMP or cycle zoning. Let the Baltimore County government work as it should by getting approval from agencies like the planning board and the zoning department. The condos should be planned in such a way that benefits the community and not rushed via legislation. These condos will be the first impression of Perry Hall traveling south on Valley Road. Finally, I am generally in support of 55+ housing, but I believe the narrative of zero impact to schools is not accurate. It is my opinion that most people buying into a 55+ community in Baltimore County are moving from within Baltimore County, thereby freeing up a residential unit in Baltimore County that families with children may move on into. I would like to thank the council for listening to my concerns. I'm asking Councilman Marks to withdraw Bill 7720 and for the council to vote no if the bill proceeds. Thank you.
Councilman Marks, can I ask you a question? I didn't hear. Did that gentleman say he lived in the new Strawberry Commons development?
No.
Oh,
He
okay.
lives in Forge Reserve,
Oh, okay.
which is the adjacent community.
Okay, thank you. Is there another speaker, Ms. Belcastro?
Madam Chair, I had a question for the speaker.
Sure.
I just was curious. You mentioned that residents that move to 55-year and older community are moving from within the county. What's the basis for that? I've never heard that before.
I mean, I don't actually have data, but I imagine people aren't necessarily moving to Baltimore County to retire. They're probably looking to downsize within Baltimore County because they base their lives here and have developed a strong community within Baltimore County and are staying. And if that is the case, they're moving from a residential unit that a young family can then move into. Like I said, that's just my opinion. That might not be based in fact or data, but I think the strong likelihood of a majority of people moving to these places are from within the Baltimore County already.
Okay, I was just wondering what your thinking was. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that, Councilman Batoka, because I feel that the 55 and older concept that people have when they go into assisted living, they don't want to leave their communities. They usually want to worship where they're already worshiping. They want to shop where they're already shopping. When they're still driving, they want to drive on familiar roads. They want to go to the same post office. So I'm sure there are some people that may come from out of the area, but my experience has been that for folks going into 55 and older and assisted living or, any senior apartments, they want familiarity. And they do come from within their own neighborhoods or try to stay pretty close by where they are familiar. Do we have another speaker?
Yes, Madam Chair. We had a Mr. Shaftel, but I don't see him I saw him earlier on our attendee list, so I'm not sure if he had to leave. So the next speaker would be Diane Walsh. If I can find Ms. Walsh. Hello? Ms. Walsh? Ms. Walsh, I will unmute you. Are you there?
Yes, hello?
Yes, you may begin.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Good evening. My name is Diane Walsh. I'm a longtime Baltimore County resident, currently living in Perry Hall. I'm here to offer my testimony in opposition to Bill 7720. I'm a resident of Forge Reserve, the neighborhood immediately adjacent to the development addressed by this bill. I would like to share my concerns regarding the process that's being undertaken to allow this zoning exemption and provide context for the limited opportunity Forge Reserve has had in providing feedback on the proposed changes. Over the past 10 years, Forge Reserve has been monitoring the plans for this development. Up until this past spring, the plans had shown for commercial development that we felt would have minimal impact on our community. On June 30th, Forge Reserve held an HOA meeting. Councilman Marks unexpectedly presented the possibility of the plan being changed to eliminate several of the pad sites, and instead construct a 3 to 4 level condo building for ages 55 plus. We were cautiously open to the idea, although adjacent homeowners did voice objections. Without having detailed plans available to review or time to discuss privately as a community, we were not in a position to give an informed response to the new plan. Our HOA board met with the developer, Southern Land Company, and Councilman Marks the following week. They learned that the plan involved 3 4-story condo buildings, not one, The closest would be less than 30 feet from Forge Road and directly across from Forge Reserve residences. Since receiving these details and having the opportunity to discuss as a community, Forge Reserve has determined a number of concerns with the plan, which my fellow neighbors are presenting in more detail. We are also very concerned about the process that's being taken to push through the changes. Southern Land tried to seek a limited exemption from the DRC on July 21st to bypass a public hearing process, saying the condos did not materially alter the approved plan. It's hard to see where this is not a significant change. That limited exemption was withdrawn, but since then, Councilman Marks has presented Bill 7720 that once again eliminates the typical public zoning hearing process. The bill was first presented on August 3rd, with today's work session and the vote scheduled for September 8th, all before the Forge Reserve Committee had an opportunity to meet with Councilman Marks and Southern Land to discuss our concerns. It seems this new plan is being rushed through to suit the needs of Southern Land without seeking adequate input from the community. We understand that the pandemic has made the commercial real estate environment much less appealing, but that does not mean we should rush to another plan without sufficient consideration given to the communities impacted. We would kindly ask Councilman Marks to withdraw the current bill so that adequate time can be provided to engage the community, seek public input, and allow us to work with Councilman Marks and Southern Land to find an agreeable solution. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there another speaker, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, my apologies. I have my hands in many cookie jars while this meeting's going on. Yes, our next speaker is Jason Walsh. Mr. Walsh. Mr. Walsh, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you may begin.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the council. My name is Jason Walsh. I'm a lifelong Baltimore County resident. I grew up in Parkville, where my wife and I also happened to buy our first home. And for the past 10 years, we've lived here in Perry Hall in the Forge Reserve development, where I'm also the HOA's president. I'm a graduate of Calvert Hall High School, the University of Baltimore, and the UB School of Law. I own 3 Baltimore County small businesses. I'm an employee of the U.S. Department of Justice in Washington. And I'm here in my personal time, and my testimony is my own opinion and does not reflect the opinion of the department. I'm testifying against proposed Bill 7720 as written. I think the bill needs revision in part, and I believe the neighborhood needs to be given additional time to work with Councilman Marks and the developers of the approved BL zoned parcel, the corner of Bel Air and Honeygo Boulevard. That parcel will immediately benefit from this bill. Bill 7720 would initially provide the shops at Perry Hall LLC with the ability to add proposed 96-unit, 60 to 70 foot high condominium units just a stone's throw from my home, and even closer to those that live on Forge Road. Forge Reserve is a grouping of homes established in 2010, averaging over $500,000 in value, sitting on quarter and 1/3 acre lots. These homes are an average of 25 to 30 feet in total height and will be dwarfed by buildings such as those proposed in this legislation. Initially, when the concept of owner-occupied residential housing was proposed by Councilman Marks, I and others were excited for the possible land choice use. However, after learning more about the scope of this plan over the past 8 weeks, and after learning about the bill at hand in just the past several days, the process seems extremely rushed for a unit that'll be permanent fixture in the Perry Hall community for decades to come. Specifically, the commercial plan which Bill 7720 benefits places ingress and egress and the condo's physical addresses on Forge Road between Bel Air Road and Honeygo Boulevard. This section of Forge Road currently has just 7 homes. It's about 400 feet in total length. 4 of these 7 homes are occupied by families with young children. This bill would increase the number of homes on this section of Forge Road by nearly 1,400% and open up the road to a constant, unsafe flow of traffic and residents coming and going from that condo, as well as accessing the lots, retail gas station, independent car wash, fast food restaurant, among other businesses planned in that parcel. In 2011, Councilman Marks graciously worked with our HOA to shut down Forge Road. So it does tend to, we do tend to wonder why we would want to up Forge Road to that additional traffic.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
could you please wrap up your comments?
Sure. My ask of the council and the Councilman Marks specifically is first to withdraw the bill. And at a minimum, I ask Councilman Marks to please delay this bill by at least a month. June 30th was when we first learned about this. So it was in June, but just barely. And to allow meaningful discussions and negotiations with the developer and Councilman Marks. Thank you for your time and welcome your questions.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Marks.
First, Jason, I want to thank you for your exemplary leadership with this community association. We have worked together on a lot of issues, including the Forge Road access, which you mentioned. You do understand that the developer would be allowed to build other uses if this was turned down, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the association would be willing, I guess, to risk that there's other uses to be built, correct?
And Councilman, as we've talked, I think if the developer was going to build other units, other commercial uses, they would do it. It's been 10 years and they haven't been able to get people to lease that space. So in a pandemic, it's even less likely. I don't think we should throw a square peg into a round hole or to have a gun placed to our head, to use your words. I think that's kind of rushing.
Okay. Finally, you know that the access onto Forge Road was approved as part of the other part of the development, right?
Other part of the development before the condos were put into place. So
Okay.
the access could go away if this bill was amended. You could strict that access or amend the zoning to take away that access. Or, you know, if the retail is there, we're not going to have 96 additional homes that are going to front Forge Road.
Okay. So you were looking at least at a minimum to delay the vote on this bill, correct?
My ask are to delay, to remove that entrance, ingress and egress, and to lower the height of these buildings. But we're not against 55 plus housing. I think it's very needed, as you have said. I think Brightview has been a great partner, has been a great neighbor. We don't hear anything from them. There's zero impact to us, except maybe fire and safety.
Right.
But I think some other uses have to be looked at, not just go with the first bidder.
I understand. Okay. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you. Is there any more speakers, Ms. Bill Castro?
Yes, Madam Chair. Okay. Our next speaker is Dean Hoover. See if I can find Mr. Hoover on here. Mr. Hoover,
Yes,
you may begin your testimony.
thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Dean Hoover. I'm a land planner, been doing land planning in Baltimore County for 30 plus years. This site is a unique site in the sense that we have a high traffic count intersection of Honeygo Boulevard and Route 1, as well as all the commercial sites that have been approved on this site so far are very high impact auto uses. So when we laid this out, we were looking for a buffer between all this auto impact and the Forge Road residents. And so this is how we came up with senior housing. And it's a textbook case in land planning of a transitional zoning between a very intense commercial high auto to a very low intense Forge Road. I've heard in testimony about traffic on Forge Road. So currently, as you know, we have a health club approved on site. And I'm going to give you some traffic generation from a health club versus senior housing. So on the AM peak, a health club produces 39 trips and a senior housing produces 19 trips. On the PM peak, senior housing produces 25 trips and a health club produces 104 trips. As we all know, the BL zoning is a very intense zoning in Baltimore County. You can build up to 3 times the area of your property on that piece of that property. So your building could be 3 times the area of square footage. The height regulations allow you to build up to 100 feet tall. So as you can tell, that the BL zoning is a very intense, as well as, and we're trying to buffer this between Forge Road community, as well as then the intersection of Bel Air Road and Honeygo Boulevard. So that in a nutshell, we have proposed some landscaping along Forge Road that I don't think anybody has mentioned. In Baltimore County, the current landscape code along Forge Road, we'd have to do 10 planting units, 10 trees basically. Currently, we have proposed, and we met with the Community Association last week, and we're proposing 90.3. This is about a $200,000 expense to help landscape that transition area. As well as we're proposing berms along the Forge Road, which are about 8 feet in one side of the berm and 9 on the other. So we're trying to work with community and present a package that is probably landscaped beyond any other project on the Honeygo Boulevard corridor. So that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoover.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker.
Madam Chair, I'm going to recall Mr. Sheftel. I think I may have found him.
Okay.
Mr. Sheftel?
Yes, hi. Thanks very much for finding me. I logged in using somebody else's. In any case, I'm here, and it's nice to see you all.
Good evening.
I want to start by saying that our company, the Southern Land Company, has been developing in Baltimore County for over 35 years. During that period of time, I was president of the Home Builders Association of Baltimore County and also the state of Maryland. We're very familiar with Perry Hall, having worked very closely with Councilman Marks' predecessor, Vince Gardina. We've worked very closely with Councilman Marks when he was the president of the Perry Hall Improvement Association, and we like to think we work closely with him now as a councilman. Just to mention a few projects very quickly that we developed in Perry Hall: Gunpowder Overlook, Highlands at Perry Hall, Woodlands at Perry Hall Meadows, Williams Fields at Perry Hall, Honeybrook Farm, Honeygo Springs, Red Lion Farm, Fields at Perry Hall. So we've been there for over a decade, providing really high-end residential developments, and we've made a lot of people very happy who live there. Getting on to this project, which we call the Shops at Perry Hall. It's about a 14-acre property. We purchased it over 10 years ago from the Kraft family. We donated land to Baltimore County for the construction of Honeygo Boulevard, which bisects the site, and we contributed over $200,000 for a regional stormwater management pond. As Dean Hoover pointed out, the site is commercially zoned BL, and it's subdivided into 8 separate and distinct parcels. The project is fully approved, and we started the development work this past February. So we're out there with backhoes and bulldozers and everything else. We are off and running after a long period of time. The parcel where we would like to place the 55+ age-restricted housing is at the rear of the site. It's a parcel that we refer to as parcel number 6. Of the 14 acres, it's only about 3+ acres of land. I think everybody by now knows that the 55+ age-restricted housing does not generate any school children whatsoever. There are other restrictions. No one under the age of 18 can live there. They can visit their grandparents, but they can't live there. We really, truly, in our hearts, believe that the transition from commercial to residential to the residential on Forge Road turns this into a mixed-use development and a wonderful amenity or attribute for the community itself. With regard to the residents on Forge Road, we reached out to them. We met with them twice. Jason Johnson, Jason Walsh, they attended the meeting. Councilman Marks attended the meeting. Dean Hoover was there. At the first meeting, it was an introductory meeting, and we heard them and said, well, so let us hear what's bothering you. And they talked about the height. They talked about the height of the buildings. They talked about traffic. They talked about landscaping. So we went back to the drawing board, and we, as Dean Hoover pointed out,
Mr. Chastel?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Can you wrap up your comment?
Yeah, I'm getting there. So we met with the community. We presented a package for the landscaping. And as far as the height, this is really, really critical that everybody hears this, because the original plan of the 4-story condos that would be built by Beazer Homes were over 70 feet tall. We went back to Beazer, and after a lot of yelling and screaming, we said, this project is going to have a problem unless you can lower the height of the building. So they agreed to reduce the pitch of the roofs, and we now have the buildings down to 58 feet. We cannot make them 3-story instead of 4-story. There's a prototype. It's called the Gatherings. They're building it all over the country. It's extremely successful. So we've dealt, and I would also like to point out, and I'd like to say this on the record, Jason Johnson entered into an agreement with us at a special exception hearing regarding the traffic on Forge Road. We agreed, he agreed, that we would not have any traffic making right turns out onto Forge Road, only left. We also agreed no truck traffic. So that ship has sailed as far as access onto Forge Road. And of course, Dean Hoover talked about the numbers. In conclusion,
we're gonna have to ask you to stop.
Okay, in conclusion, we're really proud of this development. We think it's the right thing, and we really hope you can support us. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chastel, quick question. You would certainly be willing to consider to continue with me to work with the Forges Road neighborhood to address their concerns, correct?
Absolutely. Our company was having community input meetings before they were even mandatory. Of course, we're willing to work with you and the community. We just need them to, in good faith, work with us.
Okay. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Adam Rosenblatt. Mr. Rosenblatt?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You may begin your testimony.
Okay, great. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. My name is Adam Rosenblatt. I am a land use attorney at Venable Law Firm, assisting Mr. Chastel and his company with getting the approvals for this project. One thing we all know in the development community is that when we are proposing a project in David Marks's district, we had better come prepared to meet with neighborhood associations and to compromise. And to his credit, on this project, our original proposal has in 5 ways gotten more restrictive to address various concerns that we have heard from the community. The first was school impact. When we were initially proposing homes without age restriction, obviously that has a big impact on schools. And whenever you're developing anything in Perry Hall, as all the council members know, you hear about school impact. This bill does not just say that a component of this project will be age restricted. It flatly prohibits anyone under the age of 18 from residing on the site. So this project will result in zero impact to Perry Hall schools. With respect to height, you've heard several witnesses people testify about the height of the project. We've reduced the height by 12 feet through redesigning it. And the way the bill is currently written, it calls for a 70-foot building, the height being reduced to 58 feet. We could, in theory, amend this bill if it makes the community feel better to make sure that we are not exceeding the height of the newly designed building. You've heard about the landscaping requirements, and this is something, as Mr. Hoover and Shaftel said, that we're going way above and beyond what our legal requirements would be in order to give a buffer to the Forge Road community. Access, as Mr. Shaftel said, we've had multiple zoning and public hearings on this project. And when Mr. Johnson appeared a few years ago for one of the other uses on site, we entered into that agreement to prohibit both truck traffic onto Forge Road and right turns out of this site. So there will be no increase whatsoever in traffic through the residential neighborhood. You can only go back by making a left turn to the major streets. And finally, the overall traffic numbers, and we've heard from Mr. Walsh tonight that traffic is a major concern, and we certainly understand that, but the numbers and the projections for this use versus the existing use on this parcel, which is a 30,000 square foot fitness center, we are cutting the projected traffic in more than half by changing the use to assisted living apartments. And the beauty of age-restricted condominiums, sorry, not apartments, is that age-restricted users don't typically drive in the peak hour the way that users of a fitness center or a non-age restricted form of housing would. So we're really going to be spreading out the traffic and cutting it in half from what is already approved and could be permitted and constructed on this parcel. So overall, we have made a number of concessions, and to the credit of both Mr. Marks and the developer have changed the original thought and design of this use in a number of ways to address the concerns of the community. The project will fulfill the important goal of having mixed-use development inside the Erdl, and it's now designed in a way that really addresses and minimizes impact on the surrounding area. So we would please ask for your support for this legislation.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers on this bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, there's one more speaker, Meg Powers. Ms. Powers?
Hi, yeah, I just got turned on. I'm here. I just want to thank you again for letting me have a chance to speak. I'm the Vice President of Gunview Farm Homeowner Association, and I know Rich has already gone into detail with his comments, but he asked me to speak as well. I have reached out, I should say the board has reached out, not me personally, to the neighbors who live here in Gunview Farms. And the consensus of opinion from the surveys that we get sent out was that they really did not approve of the rezoning for the purpose of adding senior housing, although we know and we want and we understand that senior housing is very important to our residents as we're all getting to that point of possibly needing it. I know we've had a wonderful relationship with David and we want to continue it. And I also agree with Ms. Walsh about her proposal to possibly delay or table this until we've had a chance to maybe meet with David one more time with the developer and actually see the layout of what's proposed. Because right now at this point, speaking from the community whom I'm representing, I have to say that everybody I've talked to, save for one person, has said, no, we don't want it. If we could possibly table this and give us time to meet with the developer and see the specs. And I know somebody else asked Rich, how far do we live? I personally live exactly 3/4 of a mile off of Bel Air Road. And even though it's not right next door to me, in my heart, Perry Hall is my new community. I've been here for 25, almost 26 years. My family also lives out here. And to me, the value of our homes and anything that affects the community, anybody within, I'm going to say minimum 3 miles, maybe even 5 miles, it's still Perry Hall. So yes, we are concerned about the increased construction and everything that goes along with it. And I know it's a give and take and it's a very fluid thing to work out, but we would like to just have a little talk without, with the developer and David.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think there is one more person, Tony Aqueous, that has signed up.
Okay. Ms. Belcastro, have you found the last speaker?
Actually, I'm confirming that right now with our new speaker registration. Everything's automated, so I'm on the system now checking it. I do not have him on our list, but let me check.
He's number 18.
Right, I'm seeing that.
Bear with me one moment.
I believe it's on the telephone.
Yes, I'm just wanting to, I'm sure Councilman Marks is going to have the gentleman testify, but he did not sign up to speak on our registration form today.
He just sent me a chat saying he's on the telephone.
Okay.
Does that make a difference if he's on the phone?
Yes, so it's going to have a hard time. I don't know if I would be able to. Actually, this the person who, Mr. Costello, actually messaged me. So they're not on the phone.
It's him and Mr. Costello who have contacted me.
Okay, but he did not register, Councilman, just for the record. He did not register on our new system today. I just went back and checked the system.
How do they have the ability to chat? Can they have the ability to chat without being registered?
Well, Madam Chair, people can get on, they can get on this link to be on the meeting and listen. That's what the public generally does. But in order to testify on particular matters, we require people, just like we would if we were in person, we require people to sign up to testify. So there's some organization to it. And we have an automated system to do that now. So there's no one falling through the cracks and no ambiguity. And I think Ms. Belcastro is just letting you all know that that person did not go through that channel.
Okay, Chris, are you seeing what I'm seeing on the chat with panelists?
Yes, and I found Mr. Castillo on the attendee list, but this is a foolproof system. There is a new form on our virtual meetings page that people have to fill out. Unless it wasn't filled out properly or wasn't submitted, that could have been a possibility that his registration, but we do not have a registration for Mr. Costello. It's an automated, I don't have anything to do with it. It's an automated list that's populated now. We print it out after everything.
He's waited over 2 hours. There's no way he can even go a minute.
If we can find him.
Oh, I have Mr. Costello. I have him on the attendee list right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can turn the call upon.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Costello.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened from earlier today. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Tom Costello. I am representing the Board of Directors for Forge Reserve Community in Perry Hall, and I'm also a subcommittee member that was formed within our neighborhood to address the Shops at Perry Hall project. Let me start by saying, thanks for your time today. Forge Reserve, as you guys have heard, we're a small neighborhood of 29 single-family homes located adjacent to the Shops at Perry Hall development. This community of ours has been and continues to be under siege from a perfect storm of projects and development, such as the pending expansion of the BG Service Center on Bel Air Road to include removal of almost 2 acres of trees that backs up to our community, the pending unknown development of the Little Lancaster property, and now the hurried Shops at Perry Hall project. When we purchased our homes, everyone understood that ultimately there would be something on the lot. That was never an issue. We also understood that, the Wawa, Steak and Shake, Valvoline, and Audubell Car Wash are rapidly moving forward. We take no issue with that. Our issue, as you guys have heard today, is that this property sat vacant for a very long time. And suddenly we were first introduced to the condominiums on June 30th at our homeowners association meeting by Councilman Marks. At the meeting, Councilman Marks first presented the possibility of the plan being changed to eliminate several of the pad sites and instead construct one 4-story, 4-level building of condominiums for age 55 plus. At this meeting, we were skeptical but open to the idea, although the adjacent homeowners did in fact voice concerns. The property in question is located at the corner of Honeygo Boulevard and Bel Air Road, extending back to Forge Road. Several of the homes in our community sit on Forge Road, or they have clear views of this property and they will be adversely impacted. So without having plans to review or time to discuss as a community, we were not able to greenlight the project at our HOA meeting. So we quickly formed our subcommittee, and then we subsequently learned from the developer Southern Land that it would not be one building, but rather 3 buildings and 96 units, and the closest condominium building will be placed less than 30 feet from Forge Road, directly across from our Forge Reserve residence. So here's our concerns, as you've heard today, just in summary. Number 1, aesthetics. So I ask you to put this visual in your head. Telephone pole in the street is about 40 feet. These condominiums are almost double in size at 70 feet. So a perfect example of how this information is changing, 58 feet. I just heard that tonight with you guys. So originally this was 70 feet. Still 58 feet is extremely high. There will be a complete lack of privacy. Our neighborhood, our houses on Forge Reserve, our residents' children's bedrooms face Forge Road looking out at this building. Number 2, we talked about an increased traffic. I'll just add this. We've already had one accident in our dead end where a car ran into a closed barrier in the middle of the night. We had a truck in the middle of the night speed through our neighborhood and run over my mailbox. We had a car speeding on Honeygo Boulevard, lose control and run over the fire hydrant and into our development entrance.
Excuse me, Ms. Armstrong, can you conclude?
Okay, this will get exponentially worse. Safety go on and on. This was a hurried process. It should be required to be in the Honeygo overlay district. It's not. So in closing, I would just ask each of you, as you're accountable for your constituents, so am I as a board member for Forge Reserve, pushing through 7720, allowing for the construction of 3 70-foot or 58-foot horrendous buildings would decimate the transitional look and feel of North Perry Hall. It would greatly impact our neighborhood and our individual home values. Furthermore, the very essence of this project goes against the Honeygo Overlay District Design Guidelines, which states walled-off subdivisions with no connections to open space systems and adjacent neighborhoods are antithetical to the Honeygo design concept. Make no mistake, in the spirit of full transparency, should this project move forward as it stands, Forge Reserve community will fight this with every means at our disposal and not rest until a peaceful compromise has been reached. Our small neighborhood has gone through a lot. Council members, please think about what I've just outlined to you. Please think about if this was your families. We've worked very closely with David, and we have the full confidence that we could come to a successful resolution with this project. But in order to do so, we need to kill this bill right now and buy some time to be able to think about our next step. So
Thank you.
thank you for your time today.
Are there any more speakers, Ms. Belcastro?
Yes, Madam Chair. Once again, as much as we try to make things foolproof, Mr. Antonio Akia has signed up to speak, but apparently from the drop-down list, he selected the wrong item. He selected, as I said, this is there. Whatever they select, it's automatically populated, and he had listed resolution 80, but apparently Mr. Akia wanted to speak on Bill 77. So we're going to call upon him now. Thank goodness for chat.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Akia?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, apparently you must have just selected the wrong item from the drop-down list, but we'll take care of it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really appreciate your consideration.
No problem. You may begin your testimony.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, council members. I'll try to keep it brief. As history, I previously served as the president of the Forge Reserve HOA back when it was first created. My HOA, under my leadership and Jason's, we've had experience with negotiations regarding developers such as Brightview, the Forge Road closure. Currently, we're in discussions with BG&E. I must say, Mr. Marks has been instrumental in those encounters and brokering these meetings with my HOA and these entities. He also did a heck of a job brokering the deal to close Forge Road and leave the traffic light up, and I must commend him for the fact that he did impose the Honey Go overlay over the BGE properties. That is that issue with their discussions. I just want to say to begin with, thank you, Mr. Marks, for all your support, your leadership, and your continued guidance through all these processes. Unfortunately, I can't say, in the present case, I cannot say the same for the developer Southern. This parcel is set undeveloped for 10 years, and now suddenly there's a rush to approve a spot zoning plan, one that will shatter the current zoning requirements and lay waste to the Honey Go overlay mandates that exist directly adjacent to this lot. The current building plan now, I guess, calls for 58-foot tall buildings, still 18 feet over the max that's allowed currently. The new bill also disregards the commercial setback zones, the distances. It also derogates those setbacks, and without any site plan or information or conceptual context or scale, there's no way we can even do our due diligence to see if this is something that can work here. We're simply asking time to fully review and actually see the site plan for once in its entirety for the first time, conduct our due diligence as we always have done in the past. We feel that the developer is not acting in good faith. It has not been transparent, has not fully disclosed all the facts. And without all those facts, how are we expected as a constituency to at least do our due diligence and explore and see what lies below the fray? Why hasn't this developer approached us until now, the 11th hour? Why haven't we been given an opportunity to perform our due diligence? Why shouldn't this lot comply with the Honey Go overlay standards? Or at least, why shouldn't input from us be considered before proposing a plan that so drastically changes the gateway to Perry Hall? This is the first thing that travelers through our area are going to see. It's going to be the welcoming gate. Don't we want to do this properly and correctly so as to not to cause a blight on the area, so that when people drive through, they can be proud of what they see? I ask that you indefinitely table this proposal, this proposed bill. At least have us take a look at the site plan, see if there's any other proposal that could be better for the area, to see if there's anything else that we can do with the height, the distancing, the setbacks, the neighborhood transitioning areas, and ensure that before there's a taking of property rights, that absolute due process occurs. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more speakers?
Madam Chair, I believe that was the last speaker for Bill 7720.
Thank you. I just want to make one comment to Councilman Marks, and I know how hard he works at trying to bring community and folks together when he has these decisions to make. This is the shopping center that's vacant, correct, currently?
No, it's under construction.
It's under construction.
Right.
It's under new construction.
Correct.
Right, but it had very few tenants left in it?
It's a brand new development.
Oh, it's brand new. Okay. I thought it was an older one. I was going to say, because that would be the blight, not a brand new building. So, okay, thank you. Sorry for the confusion.
No problem, and thank you for your comments.
Next, we're going to move on to, I think we're done with that, right, Mr. Marks? We're done,
Yeah,
right?
we're done with that.
Okay, we're going to move on to Bill 78-20, and that's on page 9.
This is a lot easier. This allows by right someone in the Honey Go growth area of Perry Hall who's in a DR1 property to have a barber shop. That's it.
That's it. Okay. Anybody make comments or questions? Yes.
I apologize. I did have one question for Councilman Marks. On the other development we just talked about, don't they still have to go through the DRC to modify the plan?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good point.
There'll be hearings there, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, the DRC and then so there's still required DRC approval.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, this looks like it was a short one, Mr. Marks. No
Thank
questions
you.
or comments. Thank you. Next, we are going to, oh Lord, we're not going to do that. Okay, page 70, resolution 79-20. Councilman Crandall. Are you still with us?
I am here and awake, listening intently. Thank you, Madam Chair. So this council, I think, has made steps throughout the last few years to increase the transparency, to give people more information, to provide access to information about the doings of the council. And it struck me is mostly after some difficult votes or some of our more controversial votes that people were asking me, well, who voted for it? Who voted no? Did you vote no? So I just think it's a step in the right direction. What this resolution would do is take that step to publish the roll call votes of council legislation, and it would go right alongside of the bills themselves that we post on the county council website. So we've done things like streaming. I think that we were probably out in front of the General Assembly on streaming and then archiving our videos of legislative meetings and work session meetings. So it just seemed to me a logical step to put our votes in a very accessible place. Unlike Congress and the General Assembly, if you ever tried to find out who voted for what, it's a little bit of digging that you have to do on those sites. So I thought that we'd make it easy for our constituents to find where we were on these issues as we vote for them. I do want to thank Mr. Bostwick, Mrs. Belcastro for they had to, when I proposed doing this, they had to figure out, well, how would we logistically handle that? And if I could speak for our secretary, I believe that he and Chris have worked that out where it's a simple form that could be developed in order for this to easily take place on the county website. So hope for your support on it. I think, as I said, I think it's in addition to the steps that we've made to make county government more accessible to our constituents.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Councilman Crandall?
Chair?
Yes.
Yes, Councilman Crandall, so you have the intention of when a bill is voted on to have that roll call available online?
Correct. When pending legislation moves from pending to either approved or not approved, or even voted to table or withdrawn, when that conclusion is reached, the intention is to have the vote apparent and visible on the county council website.
You intend to have the roll call vote on amendments available to the public as well?
Yes, the resolution speaks to that.
Well, okay, because the legislature's done all that for years, and they also, in the legislature, have committee votes are also online as well. So we don't have any committees, but would it be your intention when we vote on the budget and we vote on amendments to the budget that the votes on those amendments be recorded as well?
I think that it would be a prudent step. I'll have to defer to our secretary on that because our votes on the budget are a little bit different. And aside from the vote on the adoption of the budget itself, as you know, the process is we're trying to propose cuts and do a vote, even though it's obviously a public meeting. I think it's outside of our normal legislative process. Am I correct in that, Mr. Bostwick?
You are, Mr. Crandall. The budget deliberation that you all go through and that one day or that one period when you are considering the budget and making decisions, That's more of an informal vote. That really gives the auditor's office and me guidance on what your decisions will be for the budget that gets voted on as a whole in the budget and appropriation ordinance and any related bills, either a week later or perhaps even a few days later. I think the way it worked out on this cycle. So I don't believe that the votes, those informal votes on the budget, would be, they frankly are not part of this resolution.
Mr. Boswick, can you tell me if during the voting session on the budget, we're allowed to introduce amendments at that time, correct?
Yes, sir.
So actually those votes on those amendments would be subject to this bill.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Boswick.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Councilman Grant.
Madam Chair, I'd like to be a co-sponsor, please.
Okie dokie. You got that, Mr. Boswick?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Madam Chair.
Alrighty, we're gonna move on to Resolution 80-20 on page 71. And this is Mr. Marks, Councilor Marks.
Thank you very much.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, and Ms. also is going to be sharing some information as well. So this resolution adopts the review of the development proposed at the Gerst Farm, which is located east of the Honeygo Village Center. It is likely the last major undeveloped parcel in Honeygo, which was designated by the Baltimore County Council as a growth area in 1994 that would use new urbanist codes for architecture and design. Next slide. At that time in 1994, none of the developments off Joppa Road had yet been built. As you can see here, to the left is a picture of the farm that once existed near Camp Chapel Church. That is now the Honeygo Village Center. And to the right is the townhouses that were subsequently built. In the late 1990s and the 2000s, the Honeygo Village Center, Glenside Farms, Ford's Landing, and every other project was built using the Honeygo plan as a guide. Today, they are vibrant neighborhoods that add so much to the great community of Perry Hall. Next slide, please. A little bit of history. This is the third plan unit development proposed for this site. I blocked the first two from advancing. I also downzoned this site in 2016 to pause development until funding could advance for Honeygo Elementary School and the new Northeastern Middle School. Next slide, please. The current proposal for this site represents a significant reduction in the number of units at this property. There are two distinct parts. First, a collection of low-level villas that will be age-restricted so that no one under 18 can live there and will be marketed to senior citizens. These restrictions will be embedded in the land records of Baltimore County and included in this legislative document. I have heard nothing but praise for the senior villas, which are critical in a county which, as I said before, has 25% of its population now as senior citizens, and where we have more seniors than school-age children. A post that I shared on Perry Hall Neighbors Facebook site now has more than 250 likes. The second element includes traditional townhomes, which will be sequenced in a way not to be built before the new elementary and middle schools. Next slide, please. About 72% of this proposal includes senior housing. More than 40% is open space. Proposal includes trails, tree-lined streets, and a playground that will be accessible to the residents of the Honeygo Village Center, one of the most densely populated areas in Honeygo, which lacks a play area for children. Again, 72% of the development is senior housing and 40% is open space, which far exceeds the open space requirement. Contrary to some information that was distributed, this resolution does not approve the development. The resolution requires a community input meeting and formal review by Baltimore County agencies. That's it. I understand there is opposition to this latest proposal, as there was opposition to every development plan submitted at this parcel before. I respect all those who have differences of opinion, which I have truly tried to bridge. I was the president of the Perry Hall Improvement Association for nearly a decade and was on its board when every development along Gerst Road was proposed. We had spirited debates, but we welcomed those who moved in, even though we knew that there would be clearly impacts. My pledge to all those listening and in the Honeygo area is that I will continue to work to mold and improve this proposal as time continues. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions or comments? Theta, thank you for that thorough presentation. Are there any comments or questions for Councilman Marks from the members? Because we do have speakers signed up. Okay, hearing none. Ms. Belcastro, first speaker, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. Our first speaker is Patricia Malone.
And could you please remind speakers they have 3 minutes?
Yes, Madam Chair, 3 minutes for testimony. I do have a timer. However, sometimes when the person's speaking, they will not hear the beep. So either the chair or I will interrupt and ask for you to wrap up the comment.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Malone? Ms. Malone? Ms. Malone? Are you there? Ms. Malone?
Okay, maybe we can get back to Ms. Malone and go to the second speaker.
Absolutely. Our next speaker is Pat Keller. Mr. Keller?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the County Council, good evening. Good long evening, I might add. My name is Pat Keller. I'm Vice President of the Perry Hall Improvement Association, residing at 9704 Bernard Lewis, Perry Hall, Maryland. On August 3rd, Baltimore County Councilman David Marks introduced Resolution 8020, which would allow 286 townhouse development on a 47-acre parcel known as the Gerst Farm to proceed in development using the PUD process. What is unusual and sort of disconcerting about the request, it's for 286 townhouses, and I think this is one thing that the council should know. It's on a 47-acre parcel that is currently zoned DR1, which would allow by right 47 homes. So the resolution is actually proposing a 6-fold increase over the current zoning. As David mentioned, the zoning and the DR1 zoning was changed in the last CZMP in 2016. And the zoning prior to that was a combination of DR2 and 3.5, and that would have yielded 146 dwellings, and that had been in place for many, many years. I think the council members have received a letter from the Community Association sort of regarding more information on this, and I just encourage you to read that and go over it. The Perry Hall communities have long recognized that this parcel would be subject to development. The Perry Hall communities have consistently stated that a development of 146 units would be acceptable. We have testified.
I think you're unmuted. Can't understand.
I'm sorry?
That we don't know where that came from.
Keep going, Mr. Keller. I think that might have been Miss Malone.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bostridge. So we have testified at committee meetings and corresponded with elected officials. What is not acceptable is a doubling of the prior density to 286. What is acceptable is 146, which what it was zoned for many, many years. Now, last week, the County Council concluded the 2020 CZMP. The Gerst Farm was not raised as a zoning issue during that process. The development of the Gerst Farm is now being relegated to the PUD process. Again, using this kind of density increase through a PUD process is excessive and unwarranted. As a general rule, the use of the PUD to use this for this type of increased density is really, I just think, excessive and probably going beyond what the original intent was. The communities that are involved in this, and that you'll hear from a little bit later, are the Perry Hall Improvement Association, Glenside Farms, Honeygo Village, Forge Acres, Forge Reserve, Keep Gurst Green, and Gunview Farm. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just for point of clarification, Mr. Keller, you were planning director for Baltimore County in the 1990s. Thank you for your service. Do you know of any developments built in the 1990s and 2000 that had 40% open space in this area?
I believe what we're discussing about is Resolution 8020, correct? And what would be an appropriate density and development for that site? And the Perry Hall communities all think that if we go back to the zoning that had been in place for many, many years, 146 units is more than ample, more than enough. Doubling it to 286 is excessive.
But, and I'm not asking for an answer, I guess, but all of those developments built in the 1990s exceeded that density. So, okay, thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Madam Chair, this is Izzy.
Kovatuka.
I just wanted to say, Pat, it was good to hear your voice. I was Pat's deputy when he was planning director of Baltimore County. And just wanted to say hello and thank you for providing testimony.
Absolutely, Councilor. It was always a pleasure working with you.
Thank you. Same.
Oh, geez, well, let me chime in. Mr. It's good to hear from you, and I had a pleasure working with you when I was with the Smith administration.
Yes, we had a great time with the Smith administration. It certainly was a good one. Absolutely. I just want to, I mean, just as a point here is that we change density with PUDs and a little bit, and we have CZMP. You go through that process. Do you really think that this level of change is warranted through a PUD process? Thank you very much.
Can I jump in, Madam Chair, real quick?
Yes, Councilman.
One of the reasons why you do PUDs is that you can have restrictions on the development. And I hear constantly about school overcrowding, which I completely share those concerns. With the PUD, you can restrict the age of people living there. And that's one of the things we're looking to do. And I also say we are not approving this development tonight, contrary to the information that was put out earlier about this. We're just reviewing it. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Just if I might say briefly, and I will be brief, and that is the property was downzoned to DR1 with the expectation there would be a PUD, and it would go to 146 with age restricted back to the current zoning, but not way up to 286. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I was the councilman who downzoned it, and I don't recall ever having that conversation with you. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
We're going to go back to Ms. Malone. I think she has worked out her mic issues.
Very good.
Malone?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
I apologize for if you heard my frustration during Mr. Keller's talk. So I'm speaking in favor of Resolution 8020. Earlier this year, my firm filed a planned unit development application on behalf of Elm Street Development for the Gurst Farm. The property is a 48-acre parcel located in the Honeygo area. It's been owned and farmed by the Gurst family for generations. It's located, and this is as Councilman Marks mentioned, it's located in the northern portion of the Perry Hall White Marsh growth area, as was designated in the Master Plan 89 to 2000 and also the Master Plan 2010. At that time, the property was zoned DR 10.5 and was slated for townhomes. So with that zoning, again, this was the zoning when the master planning was done, the property would have yielded 500 units. And then the Honeygo plan, as Councilman Marks also showed, designated the property for medium to high density residential development. So I take issue with the comment that this property was supposed to be low density development. So while the planned growth and development was occurring all around the family for the past 20 years, the family continued to maintain and farm the property. The family has seen the land all around it developed. There's Glenside Farms to the north, Forge Landing to the east, Strawbridge Commons to the south, Honeygo Village and Honeygo Village Center directly adjacent to the western and southern property lines. Given the advanced age of the last farmer in the family has decided that it's time to sell the property. And that's where Elm Street comes in. Elm Street has a great reputation for developing high-quality, well-designed communities, and Greenlee is a very good example of that. And Councilwoman Bevins, that's in your district. As the planned unit development application explains, the vision for this project is to complete the build-out of the Honeygo Village. The new community would directly connect to and be an extension of Honeygo Village. And actually, if you look at the Honeygo Village plan, the roads actually stub at this property and clearly were intended to extend through this property. The project proposes a walkable, pedestrian-friendly townhome community offering 3 different types of units. And as Councilman Marks mentioned, most of them are targeted and now restricted to 55 and up. The project also includes plans for a linear park and a network of open space areas and trails. As David Murphy with Elm Street will explain after me, Elm Street has agreed to many concessions with the community in an effort to address their concerns about the project. They've lowered the number of units down to 286 from 317, which was originally proposed. They've agreed to age restrict 70% of the units, increase the amount of open space. So you've already heard some complain that the property's underlying zoning does not support the density proposed. And that's the very purpose of a planned unit development, is that there's give and take to it. You ask for certain accommodations, and it's expected to give higher quality development and a community benefit, which this project does. So as has been mentioned, the property was downzoned from DR 10.5 to DR 3.5 to DR 1 over the years. So if you have to do the I'm sorry.
Please conclude because your time is up.
So actually, if you do the calculation, this project is proposing what would be the equivalent of a DR 6.5. So it's lower than the property's original zoning, and it's lower than the adjacent Honeygo Village. So I would appreciate you considering this project as modified, that Mr. Murphy will explain and allow the project to move forward in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Daniel Setzer.
We talk
Mr.
about.
Setzer?
Do you have me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you tonight about the project, the Gerst Farms project. We have owned 2 houses here in Perry Hall. We've been residing here for well over 20 years. We currently live in a 3-story townhouse, which is just fine for us at the moment. But looking forward, we can imagine a time when we might need to have single floor living. And we've looked around Baltimore County and elsewhere looking for that sort of a layout. And all of those options would take us away from Perry Hall. And we absolutely love the neighborhood. We love the convenience and all of the services that are close by. And when we heard that there was going to be a 55+ community built literally within walking distance of where we are right now, we were absolutely delighted to hear that. I know there's been a lot of talk about increased traffic. Well, we've been here for well over 20 years, and in that time, we've seen cow pastures and horse stables and farms turn over into housing developments and apartments and whatever. And I can't really say that my quality of life has been degraded one little bit because of all of that development. I kind of expect that that's going to be the case with this development. I can't speak to the school situation, obviously, but I would like to see the project get the green light to go ahead and for construction to begin on the 55+ units, perhaps with a stipulation that the single family units would not be put under construction until the schooling issue was resolved. I don't know if that's an option or not. At any rate, I'm all for the project, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is David Murphy. Mr. Murphy? I'll unmute your mic, Mr. Murphy.
Okay.
Murphy? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Murphy? I'm unmuting his mic and then it's getting muted again automatically. I don't
Okay. Okay.
There, sir?
There he is.
Mr. Murphy?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the County Council. My name is David Murphy. I'm with Elm Street Development. Over the course of the last 3.5 years, I've been working with the Gerst family, Councilman David Marks, and members of the community to develop the Gerst Farm PUD plan defined under Resolution 80-20. I first met with the Perry Hall Improvement Association's board to discuss the property in December of 2017. Throughout the summer of 2019, I met with members of the community, including Glenside Farms and Honeygove Village, who participated in a work group that Councilman Marks assembled and which was tasked with developing a plan for Gerst Farm. The goal was to develop a plan that would maximize open space and greenways, offer housing that would attract seniors and would not overcrowd schools, would strengthen the businesses at Honeygove Village Center, and improve connectivity between neighborhoods and area road networks. The PUD plan that was formally submitted in January of this year was the product of that work group's work and efforts. The overall vision of the property is a walkable, pedestrian-friendly community comprised of 2 hamlets, one consisting of townhomes intended to be an extension of Honeygove Village, the other an active adult community, including first-floor master villas designed for the 55 and older buyer. Given the Gerst Farm's proximity to Honeygove Village and the number of existing townhomes that are within just a few feet of its tract boundary, we believe townhomes and first-floor master villas are an appropriate housing type for this site. Over the course of the last 5 months, I've worked with Councilman Marks to address specific comments received at the CIM that took place this past February in an effort to address community concerns while maintaining the overall vision for this project. We reduced the number of townhome units by 31 units from the original PUD plan, which resulted in a net reduction of 45 units from what was first proposed. 205 of the 286 homes, 70%, over 70% of the project, originally intended to be age targeted product, will now be age restricted. The homes will not only be deed restricted to homeowners 55 years of age and older, but will also prohibit school-age children from permanently residing them, which means no impact on schools and significantly less impact on traffic. These deed restrictions are far in excess of any deed restrictions that currently exist in the county. And for projects with such a deed restriction to be economically viable, it is critical that at least a portion of the project be available for all ages. It's also critical that the project be of a sufficient scale to support and maintain the level of amenities that an age-restricted buyer demand. At Gerst Farm, we are proposing a state-of-the-art clubhouse with outdoor terrace, a variety of amenities such as pickleball courts, gardens, putting green, dog park, walking and bike trails, in addition to a 2-acre community park that will be located adjacent to Honeygove Village to be enjoyed by all area residents as part of a community benefit. With these changes and the reduction in density, over 40% of the site, 19 acres, is now dedicated to some form of open space. Over 10 of the 19 acres are outside of environmentally constrained areas. which is more than the total amount of usable open space provided at Glenside Farms, Honeygo Village, and Strawbridge Commons combined, and far exceeds the amount of open space that would be required for a by right project of similar size. On behalf of Elm Street Development and the Gerst family, I ask for your support of Resolution 8020 so that the Gerst Farm PUD may proceed through the development process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker, Madam Chair, is Jill Loudon. Ms. Loudon?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good evening, Madam Chair and council members. I'll try to keep this very brief. First, I want to say thank you to Councilman Marks for working with us and the other communities on this issue. And we really appreciate all of your hard work and efforts. My name is Jill Loudon. I am an 18-year resident of Perry Hall. I am also a 12-year resident of Honeygo Village. I am a real estate paralegal as well, so I understand the issues here, especially senior housing and age restrictions, since that's exactly what I do. My house faces Gerst Farm. I wish you could see me on video because you would be able to see the farm right behind me through my window. I oppose Resolution 8020 and urge you to pull it or delay it so the resolution could be revised. I realized when I moved in here that development is inevitable on Gerst Farm. But I really feel that 286 units, including 81 unrestricted units, are just too many. The amount of units will negatively impact the traffic, safety, schools, and environment for the surrounding communities and Perry Hall as a whole. There are too many residential units that have been built in Perry Hall recently, and there are more to come. We do not need an additional 140 units here. The developer just indicated that the unrestricted units will have to be included to make the project work, but it does not work for our community. I support Perry Hall Improvements Association's proposal of 146 age-restricted units. And as it has been mentioned, each unit should be restricted to residents that are only 55 and older. A deed restriction or covenant should be required to be recorded in the land records, which would evidence this restriction and run with the land. An age-restricted community of 55 and older would be a great use of this parcel and not unrestricted units. As Madam Chair mentioned in the discussion of Resolution 7720, people who are 55 and older want to remain in this community. So I think that would be a great option. I ask that this resolution be pulled and delayed until it is revised to reflect the 146 units, not the 286 units, and require that all age restricted and deed restricted, that it's all age restricted and deed restricted for 55 and older residents. Thank you again, Councilman Marks, for working with us and listening to us. We appreciate everything you've done for us. And thank you so much, council members and Madam Chair, for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Thank you.
Sure.
Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker, Madam Chair, is Patrick Fleming.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Fleming, yes, we can hear you.
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair and council members. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak about Proposal 8020. I also want to thank Councilman David Marks. His communication and ability to create a forum for us to express and his passion for our neighborhood does not go unnoticed. So that means a lot to us. Growing up in Dundalk, I remember my parents instilled in me from a very young age the importance of community, specifically the importance of being an active member in your community. And I learned firsthand at a young age that communities thrive when we keep the best interests in the forefront of all the decisions and proposed legislation. I am very proud to be a Perry Hall resident for the last 3 years, specifically residing in Honeygo Village. And I fully understand that I live in Perry Hall and Honeygo Village because it was developed. And I'm sure many people opposed it. but it was developed. And I also understand that the Gerst property will be developed. We understand that. But I think the word here is responsible. We are living with an extremely dangerous traffic situation with congestion and speeding, not only on Honeygo Boulevard, but on Scott Moore Way. And you heard the gentleman speak earlier about the traffic and his mailbox being hit and other issues. I unfortunately have had 2 occasions when I went to cross the street to get to the Village Shopping Center that I was missed by inches by 2 cars. And what's even more frightening, and this is what terrifies me, is watching these children try to cross Scott Moore Way to get to their bus stop in the morning or go home. People come barreling around the corner. Now, we've had some traffic calming measures implemented, and they were in the form of cameras showing drivers their speed and so forth. That was mildly effective, but the speeding cars on Scott Moore and Honeygo have gotten progressively worse. Scott Moore Way will be a major entrance and egress to any development on the Gerst property. And I do believe, to protect our residents and most vulnerable residents, our children, we must act responsibly to limit the number of homes built on the Gerst property. Now, 80/20 PUD is proposing 286 homes. That's a minimum of 286 cars. According to datausa.io, the average household in Perry Hall has 2 cars. That is 572 cars. And to help us visualize how many cars this is, if we parked all of these cars in the same lot, they would consume 2.36 acres of land. So move 2.36 acres of land of cars through Scott Moore Way and Honeygo, and you can see the problem. I'm asking that we can avert any kind of disaster or tragedy, limiting these homes to 146. Senior housing, we know that seniors in general are slower drivers. We know they're more experienced drivers, and they're going to be less cars. And we have the opportunity now to prevent a tragedy. And I want to thank you again for your time. And I really hope we do the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Bev German. Ms. German,
Yes.
you may begin your testimony.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the council. Before I begin, I want to thank Councilman Marks for what I consider to be just superb constituent service. He always listens to our concerns. He helped us very recently resolve some issues with the Weiss Market, and that is very, very much appreciated. I moved to Perry Hall in 1977 and was Dundalk girl, by the way. And I think I probably went to high school with Councilman Crandall's dad. I served as the principal at Perry Hall Elementary and Pine Grove Middle before retiring from Baltimore County Public Schools in 2000. And for the last 20 years, I've served as the executive director of the Towson Learning Network at Towson University. So this is my 50th year in public education, and I care deeply about our Perry Hall community and the quality of education our children have access to. I speak to you this evening in strong opposition to Resolution 8020 because of the additional overcrowding and stress they will place on our already overcrowded schools in Perry Hall. I am particularly concerned about Perry Hall Middle School, where my grandson just completed 8th grade. As principal at Pine Grove, I managed 1,200 students and 100 staff members. Every day was a challenge because educational research clearly states that middle schools should be no larger than 800. At its current enrollment of 1,900, Perry Hall Middle is more than double that. At its projected enrollment of 2,300, it will be almost triple that. As I have read the rhetoric about the proposed construction of a new middle school and elementary school, I am very, very concerned. I'm going to tell you some verbiage that I've read or heard. The first one is no construction will begin on the Gerst property until 2 new schools are completed. Keyword there, completed. Number 2, no construction will begin on the Gerst property until construction of 2 new schools is moving forward. That's different than completed. And number 3, this is the last thing I heard, no construction will begin on the Gerst property until Perry Hall Middle and Chapel Hill can accommodate increased enrollment. What does accommodate mean? Honestly, kids can be accommodated in trailers. So does that mean that more trailers will be constructed at Perry Hall Middle and Chapel Hill Elementary? Adding more trailers that will have to happen if there's more students there. And obviously another 80 some townhomes, I think, will produce about 50 some students if I remember the algorithm. This is why I oppose the development of the Gerst Farm under 80/20.
Ms. German,
Yes,
your time is up. If you could wrap up your comments.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Approving the construction of more non-age restricted homes anywhere within the school boundaries of a severely overcrowded school would be a failure, I think, of the responsibility of the council to represent the desires of the overwhelming majority of your constituents. I support 146 age restricted, deeded, 55 and older homes on the Gerst property, which will have no impact on our schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth.
Ms. Belcastro, I believe we have one last speaker.
Yes, Madam Chair, our last speaker for the evening is Mr. Jermaine Montgomery.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, Council, Madam Chair. I just wanted to echo some sentiments from some of the other community members here. I represent the Gerst Farms property, which is, I'm sorry, not Gerst Farms. Wow, I'm sorry, the Glenside Farms property. It's a property of 191 homes, just adjacent to the Gerst Farms, where that property would be built. We recently took a survey of the community and in relation to the council's proposal of the 286 homes, and an overwhelming support. Overwhelming opposition to that proposal. Over 92% oppose that particular proposal. Of course, many of the reasons that have already been stated. Number one being the schools. I have a 10-month-old, which hopefully you don't catch in the background, and a 6-year-old currently. I monitor closely the new people that move into the neighborhood as representative on the HOA board. And the overwhelming majority of the people who continue to move into Glenside Farms are people with young children. As was just stated, the overcrowding of the schools is a major, major, major concern. And with them already being at capacity and some over capacity, to move forward with this particular resolution without that addressed properly. And what I mean by addressed properly is not to have something in the works, but actually to have somewhere for these children to go. I grew up in Baltimore County. I used to have to go into a portable or trailer, or however you want to characterize it. I know that's not ideal. It's not ideal to put on your coat to walk outside to go into a classroom. That's not what school is supposed to be like. And so that's not what I want for my kids. It's not what I want for the rest of this community. In addition to that, the increased traffic and congestion on Gerst Farms, even with curb and gutter, would just be absolutely tremendous for this community. And I just wanted to share those concerns from my constituents here in the community of things that have been getting sent to our HOA email, and to make sure that the council was aware of all of those things. I did want to also say I appreciated Councilman Marks. He did meet with us quite a few times. Seemed very receptive to many of our concerns, but I just wanted to convey those messages here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I just thank everyone?
Sure.
First, thank you to my colleagues for their patience. I know time is getting late. Thank you to everyone who spoke. To all of you for continuing to work with me on this development, and I will continue to work with you. My daughter enters 6th grade at Perry Hall Middle School next week. I completely agree with you about school overcrowding. That's why I pushed so hard for the senior restricted housing. And we all on the council are pushing for school construction. The delay is not because of the county. The delay is because of the state legislature. But I promise you, I will continue to work with everyone who spoke tonight to try to advance the best plan for this property. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. I just had a flashback of Madeline in a high chair.
Yeah.
When you first took office, she was teeny weeny, so I can't believe that much time has went by as we've been on this journey.
Yeah, 10 years. Yep, thank you.
Mr. Boswick, are we done, or did you have something that you wanted to share tonight, or no?
Madam Chair, let me see. I think that's it, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I'll probably think of something tomorrow, but
okay,
you know,
I make sure before we closed out the work session.
right. I appreciate you giving me a shot every time, so just in case.
All right, I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. Everybody stay safe. Monday is a holiday, so we'll see everybody on Tuesday.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.